Hey dreamer, tonight you're stepping into a neighbourhood where the lawns are trimmed within an inch of their lives, where the curtains are always half open, and someone is almost certainly watching from behind them. The mailman knows everyone's business, the PTA knows everyone's children, and the neighbours know exactly how often you mow your grass. You're about to experience the quiet, unspoken pressure of 1950s suburbia. Not the shiny postcard version with smiling housewives and chrome-trimmed appliances, but the version where neighbours could elevate you, or quietly destroy your reputation, where hosting dinner wasn't hospitality, it was performance art, and where the television slowly began rewriting family life from the inside out. As you listen tonight, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? What country? What city? What small town with suspiciously perfect hedges? And tell me, does this feel like it only belonged to the 1950s? Or does some of it sound strangely familiar? Do neighbours still watch? Do social rules still quietly judge? Does the glowing screen in the living room still shape the way families gather? Leave a comment and let me know where you are in the world, and whether the pressure of suburbia ever really disappeared, or just changed its hairstyle. So settle in, adjust your pillows, lower the volume of the television, and let's begin. You've just moved in. The boxes aren't even open. You haven't found your spoons, and already there's a knock on the door. It's the welcome wagon. A pastel militia of women armed with bundt cakes, pamphlets, and the kind of smiles that make you question your life choices. You are now on trial, and the court is composed of women in aprons who already know your husband's salary. They arrive in a pack, 3 to 6 strong. Their names are cheerful and vaguely floral. Carol, Doris, Margie. One of them always goes by her middle name and has a reputation for judging people's curtains. You offer them folding chairs and the only beverage you can find, which turns out to be orange juice in a chipped coffee mug. They accept it like it's radioactive. The questions begin slowly, wrapped in compliments. Your kitchen is so quaint. Did you know the Wilsons lived here before you? Such a brave colour choice for the front door. Your child's name is Modern, isn't it? And what exactly does your husband do again? You blink. You haven't even met the mailman yet, but these women already know the square footage of your home, the price of your mortgage, and the condition of your back fence. They hand you the pamphlets, church schedules, PTA sign-up sheets, a list of block party responsibilities that reads like a military draft. They explain which nights are garbage nights and which neighbour will judge you if your bins are crooked. There is an unspoken expectation that you will join the garden club. No one knows what the garden club actually does, but people have disappeared for refusing. You try to smile, you nod, you agree to things you don't understand, including possibly hosting the Easter egg hunt. One of them scans your living room and whispers that she can get you a deal on custom slipcovers. Another points at your curtains and sighs as if she's just learned you serve your children dry cereal and sadness. The bundt cake is placed gently on your counter like a holy offering. It smells of lemon and passive aggression. You're instructed to return the plate once it's washed and ideally filled with something home-baked. This is not a suggestion. It's a test. You will be judged based on the moistness of your response cake. They ask about your hobbies. You say you enjoy reading. They interpret this as a threat. Carol mentions the church book club. It only reads the same 5 books and spends most of the time ranking neighbourhood husbands based on how often they mow. You say you're interested. You're lying. Everyone knows you're lying. That's part of the game. Before they leave, they circle back to your mailbox. Did you know the Johnsons once got cited for painting theirs navy instead of black? These things matter. You nod solemnly. As the front door closes, you exhale. The room smells like cake and quiet menace. Your welcome basket now sits on your table, filled with branded pens, scented candles, and a note reminding you to submit your chili cook-off form by Tuesday. You haven't even found your shoes. You peek through the blinds. The pastel posse is marching down the sidewalk like a judgment parade in orthopedic sandals. They stop at your neighbour's house. Carol points at your garden gnome. Doris writes something down. You are now officially a resident. The neighbourhood knows your face, your sofa pattern, and the brand of dish soap visible through your window. There is no turning back. Your door has been marked with cake. Your name will be whispered at Tupperware parties. You are one misplaced lawn ornament away from scandal. Welcome home. Try not to ruin it. Your first mistake? Letting a single dandelion bloom. The second? Mowing on a Tuesday. In this neighbourhood, the lawn is sacred. It must be trimmed, edged, watered, and worshipped. The man next door has a ruler. The one across the street owns 4 sprinklers and a moral superiority complex. You have crabgrass and a growing sense of doom. By sunrise, it begins. The low, threatening drone of distant mower blades. You try to ignore it, sipping coffee and pretending you do not hear your neighbour firing up what sounds like an aircraft carrier engine just to trim 3 blades of grass. But you hear it. Everyone hears it. The lawn is calling and it is not pleased with you. You peek through the blinds. Across the street, Mr. Jenkins is already in full gear. He wears white socks pulled up to his knees and a sun visor that doubles as a personality statement. His mower glides across the lawn like a judgmental parade float. The grass is always the exact height of virtue. He waves at you without smiling. The wave says everything. You are behind. You rush to change. There's no time to eat. There's barely time to tie your shoes. You drag your rusty mower out of the garage, accidentally knocking over a bucket of nails and a forgotten Easter decoration. The mower coughs to life on the 3rd pull, like an asthmatic dragon. It rattles. It smokes. It smells faintly of despair. The lawn itself is a battlefield. Your grass is patchy, uneven. There are unspoken regulations here. Height, colour, angle. The neighbourhood committee doesn't write them down. They don't have to. You learn by failure. And your yard is currently a case study. You push the mower forward, wheels wobbling like a toddler on skates. The dandelions tremble. You glance up and see Mrs. Owens watching from her porch. She is sipping iced tea and wearing binoculars like a fashion accessory. Her lawn is an emerald miracle, trimmed with nail scissors and blessed by angels. Yours looks like it was grazed by goats. Halfway through, you realize your mower blade is uneven. The right side cuts short. The left leaves tufts. Now your grass has a fade like a 90s boy band haircut. You attempt to compensate by circling back in creative patterns. It only draws more attention. A dog walker slows down. A child points. Somewhere, a curtain twitches. And then, disaster. A sprinkler springs to life mid-mow, drenching your shins with the icy judgment of better homes and gardens. You scream internally, but keep mowing, soaked and defeated. Jenkins nods in approval from across the street. He has switched to edging. His lawn smells of triumph. By the time you finish, your mower has begun emitting a wheeze. The grass is shorter. That is the best you can say. It is not uniform. It is not dignified. It is not what the Lawn Gazette would consider a feature article. But it is mowed. You breathe. Then you spot it. A single dandelion. Defiant. bright yellow, smiling at you with the confidence of someone who knows they cannot be defeated by scissors alone. You pluck it in shame and pray no one saw, but they did. Jenkins walks over later to borrow nothing in particular. He compliments your new pattern, as if you meant to make your lawn resemble abstract art. You thank him, unsure if this is praise or pity. Back inside, you collapse. Your clothes are stained green. Your ego is bruised. Your grass smells like ambition and failure. You survived the morning. Barely. But lawn judgment is eternal. Tomorrow, someone will install solar lights. Someone will buy a new rake. You will always be slightly behind. You stare out the window at your uneven masterpiece. It is not perfect, but it is yours. And until the next round of suburban warfare begins, it will have to do. In the 1950s, a clothesline is a billboard. Everyone knows your laundry cycle, your fabric preferences, and exactly how often you wash your bras. A misplaced pair of underpants flapping in the breeze can start a neighbourhood cold war faster than you can say permanent press. You step outside, basket in hand, armed with clothespins and good intentions. The sun is out, the breeze is mild, and the stakes are absurdly high. This is not just about drying clothes. This is performance. This is ritual. This is laundry as public relations. Each item you hang is a message. Your towels say you value order. Your pillowcases suggest your colour scheme. That weirdly faded nightgown? A scandal waiting to happen. The line itself must be taut. Sagging cord implies laziness. Twisted rope suggests chaos. You stretch it carefully, as if tuning a harp while glancing over your shoulder. Mrs. Ellsworth is pruning her roses across the yard. She waves. You wave back, discreetly tucking a pair of underpants deeper into the basket. Not today, scandal. Not today. You begin hanging. Sheets first. Always the sheets. Large, breezy, respectable. They serve as a curtain behind which you can hide the more intimate parts of your wardrobe. The floral ones are meant to say that you are cheerful and not currently spiraling. The plain white ones say you're efficient. The slightly yellowed ones say you forgot bleach again, but please do not mention it. Then come the towels. Bath towels first, followed by hand towels, then the emergency kitchen rags that resemble something from a battlefield. You try to arrange them in descending size and emotional vulnerability. You use the nice clothespins today, the wooden ones with springs still intact. Plastic pins scream desperation. And then, there they are, the underpants, innocent in theory, menacing in reality. You scan the fence lines. You listen for footsteps. Hanging them is a calculated risk. If you hide them behind the sheets, you risk being seen fumbling suspiciously. If you place them near the edge, they'll be visible from Mrs. Cranston's upstairs bathroom. The woman keeps a notebook. You opt for a middle row strategy. One pair of modest briefs near the bath towels. A decoy pair of child's underwear on the end to imply family wholesomeness, and one suspiciously lacy item that you accidentally bought during a rare moment of ambition, now buried under a dish towel like a contraband diary. Just as you secure the last pin, the wind shifts. The sheets billow, the underwear line twists, and there, in full suburban glory, is the pair of underpants you were hoping no one would ever see. Floral, high-waisted, slightly stretched, flying like a flag of surrender. You freeze. Across the fence, Mrs. Ellsworth lowers her pruning shears. Her eyes narrow. You cannot tell if she's judging or just squinting. But the damage is done. Your underwear has declared independence. You consider taking the entire line down and starting over, but then you remember you have more to do today. You have no time for laundering diplomacy. You adjust the dish towel over the offending item and pray. Later that afternoon, a rumour reaches you via a very concerned phone call from Helen, the block's unofficial newsletter. Did you hear about someone airing unmentionables during school hours? Children saw there was a breeze. Standards are slipping. You nod, make a sympathetic noise, and vow to retaliate by casually mentioning that Helen's slip was visible through her dress at last Sunday's service. By evening, the clothes are dry, the line is cleared, and your underpants are back where they belong. Hidden, folded, slightly stretched, and steeped in silent suburban shame, you sit on the porch with a glass of iced tea, listening to the whispers of freshly laundered reputation. It's just laundry, and yet, somehow, it always ends in battle. You've been voluntold to contribute to the school bake sale. Not asked, not invited, simply assigned, with a bright smile and a clipboard shoved into your hands before you could politely escape. You can do this. It shouldn't be so hard. It started as a simple assignment. Bring 24 cookies, the note said, for the benefit of the school music program. You thought, I can do that. You found a recipe in a magazine. It promised simplicity and rave reviews. You sifted, you folded, you rolled dough with the kind of care usually reserved for archaeological digs. You even added sprinkles, because you are festive, you are prepared. And then you walked into the school cafeteria. The tables are lined with treats that look like they were assembled by angels with pastry degrees. There are petit fours in pastel paper cups, bundt cakes with glaze so shiny it reflects the ceiling tiles, and cookies. So many cookies, all arranged in pyramids, labelled with hand-calligraphed cards, and each accompanied by the smiling presence of their creator, standing behind their display like a contestant on a cooking show with emotional stakes. You spot your space. It is modest. A paper plate with a cheerful napkin. Your cookies are roundish. Some are a little crisp on one edge. They smell like vanilla and effort, but they sit, humble and exposed, next to an entire tray of artisan chocolate lavender thumbprints that look like they were blessed by the Pope and then lightly dusted with powdered confidence. You adjust your plate, you fluff the napkin, you try not to panic, and then she appears, the woman, the one who never has flour on her apron, who bakes in heels, whose children wear coordinated outfits on non-holidays. Her name is probably Claire or Evelyn or something that sounds expensive. She's placing her cookies with surgical precision. Each one is frosted with a different flower. Roses, daisies, lilies. There is shading. There is dimension. You're not sure if it's frosting or actual horticulture. Her sign reads, Baked with Love. Yours says, Chocolate Chip, and is written in ballpoint pen on the back of a receipt. Other parents circle the table. You hear murmurs. One mother gasps audibly at Claire Evelyn's cookies. Someone asks if she used real vanilla. Another takes a bite and says, "Oh wow," with the reverence usually reserved for spiritual revelations. You hover near your plate, trying to will someone to try one of yours. A child approaches, reaches, then swerves toward a brownie shaped like a violin. You die a little. A woman in a cardigan leans toward you and asks if your cookies are gluten-free. You say no. She nods slowly, as if you've just admitted to a felony. You smile. You offer samples. You compliment other people's cookies with a sincerity that is mostly real and partially desperation. You eat one of your own cookies out of spite. It is actually quite good, soft, buttery, a little uneven, like you. Claire Evelyn stops by your table. She looks down at your plate and smiles gently. The kind of smile a queen gives a peasant who has tried very hard. She says, "Oh, chocolate chip, a classic." You nod. You do not speak, you simply nod. At the end of the sale, half your cookies are gone. The other half are probably in children's pockets or smashed under a chair. But you survived. You baked. You showed up. You didn't cry in the parking lot. Much. Later that night, someone calls. It's Helen. She wants your recipe. Her son said your cookies were the best. You blink. You stare. You ask her to repeat it. Twice. Victory tastes like slightly burned vanilla and redemption. The next social event, a neighbourhood potluck. You brought a simple salad. Well, that's a mistake. It all seemed so innocent when you signed up. A potluck, they said. Bring whatever you like, they said. Casual, informal. A time for the community to come together. You thought maybe a nice potato salad. Or something green, something crisp, healthy, safe. You even sliced the cucumbers into uniform little moons and sprinkled them with dill like a domestic goddess. And then you arrived. The church hall is buzzing. Folding tables are groaning under the weight of casseroles. Ham slices arranged in concentric spirals, and an alarming number of moulded substances that should not shimmer the way they do. You approach the buffet line with confidence, until you see it. There, at the centre of the table, displayed on a rotating cake stand and lit by a discreet string of fairy lights, is the Jell-O. But not just Jell-O. This is a structural achievement. A multi-tiered, gravity-defying pillar of gelatinous glory. 5 layers, each a different shade of pastel nightmare. Suspended within, pineapple rings, miniature marshmallows, shavings of carrot, mysterious red fragments that might be cherries or regrets. The top is crowned with a whipped topping rosette and a single mint leaf that looks freshly misted. It wobbles with elegance. It glows. It may have its own zip code. You blink. The woman responsible is already surrounded. Her name is Diane or possibly Judith. She wears a brooch. She does not sweat. She speaks in calm, soothing tones while explaining the importance of bloom strength in unflavoured gelatin. Someone clutches a paper plate and sobs quietly into a deviled egg. You place your salad at the far end of the table, next to the stack of napkins. You fluff the lettuce. You adjust the olives. But you know, you have brought a knife to a nuclear war. People pass it. They glance. They nod politely. But their plates are already heavy with meatloaf, macaroni surprise, and the sacred Jell-O. You stand nearby, pretending not to notice the tragic emptiness of your serving tongs. Even the ranch dressing sits untouched, a sad white puddle of failure. A child walks up. You hold your breath. He looks at your salad, then turns to the Jell-O, stabs it with a plastic fork and squeals in delight as it quivers like a haunted chandelier. You die a little. Diane or Judith floats by. She compliments your salad with a tone that sounds dangerously close to condolence. She says it's brave to go green when so many people prefer something sweeter. You smile. You say thank you. You consider flipping her Jell-O off the table and fleeing the country. Instead, you go to the punch table and drink aggressively. The sherbet is melting into a chemical swirl. You stare into it like it holds answers. It does not. After dinner, someone announces the winners of the informal dish contest. You didn't know there was a contest. Of course there was a contest. Diane or Judith wins best presentation, best flavour. Most inspirational use of suspended produce. She accepts the ribbons with grace and a small curtsy. She thanks the Lord and her hand mixer. You help clean up. You wrap your untouched salad in foil. You consider leaving it behind as an anonymous donation to the refrigerator in the church basement. You take it home. You eat it in silence at 9 p.m. while watching a quiz show. The next day there is a note in your mailbox from Diane or Judith. thanking you for your contribution, suggesting that next month's potluck theme might be international flavours. Enclosed is a recipe for something called tomato aspic deluxe. You do not reply. You simply start boiling water and reach for the powdered gelatin. The war has begun. In this neighbourhood, your neighbours notice your mail before you even do. They clock how full your mailbox is, how often it gets opened, and what slips through the slot each morning. They see the envelopes, the packages, the catalogues stacked inside, and quietly draw their own conclusions. Nothing is too small to be observed, nothing too trivial to be remembered. It begins with the daily ritual. You walk to the mailbox trying to look casual, but everyone knows what you're really after. The catalogues. Sears, Montgomery Ward, J.C. Penney. If you're feeling wild, it is the 1950s version of online shopping, except there is no incognito mode, and your neighbours know your taste in pyjamas. You flip through the pages as you walk back to the house, admiring a sensible blouse or imagining a new dinette set that looks like something a space alien might eat lunch on. You grab a pen. You circle items with hopeful loops. You dog-ear corners. Maybe a new tablecloth. Maybe matching towels. You're allowed to dream, even if those dreams arrive in black and white print on glossy paper. But the problem is this. Everyone else is doing it too, and they are watching. Mrs. Langley across the street knows exactly how long your catalogue sat on the porch. She knows when you last received one. She knows that yesterday you tore out a page and then recycled the rest. She has theories. She has binoculars. Your children are no help. They leave catalogues open on the coffee table to pages with dolls and toys and those revolting candy sampler boxes. A guest might stop by and assume that is your priority. Next thing you know, Helen is telling the PTA that you have questionable taste in licorice. And then comes the real scandal. You place an order, you fill out the form, you lick the envelope, you put it in the mailbox with a feeling of power. You're acquiring something, a floral bedspread perhaps, a bold move, and then you wait and wait. The package arrives, not in secret, not discreetly, but in a box the size of a suitcase with Montgomery Ward stamped across the front in lettering large enough to be seen from orbit. Your neighbour is outside watering her azaleas. She sees the box. She sees the brand. She sees you. There is a hierarchy. Sears is acceptable, reliable. Montgomery Ward is fine. But it sends a message. Maybe you don't care about durability. Maybe you chose price over status. Maybe you have fallen from grace. The gossip begins before the box hits your porch. Mrs. Langley mentions it the next day in passing. "Oh, I see you switched brands. How modern of you." You smile and pretend you didn't hear the undertone. You wonder how long it will take for this news to reach the church prayer group. 2 days later, your friend Patty stops by. She compliments your new curtains. She asks innocently where you got them. You hesitate. You lie. You say Sears. But she knows. She has already seen the catalogue page dog-eared on your kitchen counter. She says nothing. She smiles. It is worse than a slap. You begin to hide your catalogues. You read them in the bathroom like contraband. You shred the order forms. You leave decoy issues of Good Housekeeping on the table, hoping to distract from your retail transgressions. But nothing escapes them. Not the brand of your towel set. Not the number of pages missing from the toy section. Not the subtle betrayal of choosing beige over ivory. Beige is what happens when you give up. You try to recover. You place a prominent Sears catalogue on the porch. You walk it slowly back to the mailbox in full view of Mrs. Langley, as if to say, "Yes, I am still one of you. I have not abandoned the fold." She nods. It is a start. In the 1950s, your mailbox is not just for mail. It is a confessional, a report card, a window into your domestic soul, and it is always, always being watched. Let's talk about Garbage Day, a civic ritual disguised as warfare. Bins are out too early or too late, too full or facing the wrong way. Someone files a complaint, you will be judged, and your banana peels are part of the evidence. It starts the night before, with the soft rumble of wheels on concrete. You hear them in the distance, growing louder, like a herd of anxious buffalo. One by one, the neighbours emerge, quiet, precise, efficient. They roll their bins to the curb with the same reverence usually reserved for religious relics. Lids snap tight, handles facing outward, everything lined up in a perfectly spaced parade of waste management pride. You, however, are unprepared. You forgot it was Tuesday. Again. The leftovers in your fridge have achieved sentience. The coffee grounds in your sink are fermenting into something that might qualify as an illegal beverage. You bolt upright, throw on a robe and drag your bulging bin to the curb in your slippers, hoping to go unnoticed. You do not go unnoticed. Mrs. Phelps is already outside. She is always outside. She's wearing a housecoat and judgment. In one hand, a cup of tea, in the other, her infamous clipboard. She nods curtly. You nod back, trying to seem casual, even as you struggle to force your lid closed over a mountain of expired yogurt and cereal boxes from 3 shopping trips ago. She scribbles something on her paper. You have made several errors. First, your bin is overfilled. The lid does not lie flat. It gapes like an open wound, revealing your shame to the world. Second, the bin is facing the wrong way. The handle should point toward the house, not the street. This is an unwritten rule known only to those who attend the secret block meetings, which you were never invited to. Third, you wheeled it out at 10:12 p.m., 2 hours past the unspoken deadline. The neighbours heard. They always hear. By morning, the street is a study in municipal choreography. Every bin aligned, every bag tucked. Yours is the lone rebel, slouching, slightly leaking. A potato peels itself against the edge. A lid flaps gently in the breeze like a flag of dishonour. The garbage truck arrives. It is large, loud, indifferent. The men operating it have seen worse, but Mrs. Phelps has not. She watches from her porch like a hawk in curlers. She sips her tea. She judges the efficiency of your trash-to-truck transfer. She winces when a bag bursts slightly on impact. A small puff of expired pancake mix escapes into the air like a defeated ghost. Later you find a note taped to your garage, typed, anonymous, friendly tone, threatening message. It says something like, "Just a friendly reminder to secure your bins properly for the dignity of the neighbourhood." Dignity is underlined. The font is Comic Sans, which somehow makes it worse. You wonder if anyone saw the watermelon rind, or the collection of half-melted candles you finally admitted you would never use, or the empty box of store-brand crackers you once swore you'd never buy again. Your trash tells your secrets, and the street is listening. By next week you are ready. Your bin is out by 7:55 p.m, handle facing the correct direction, lid perfectly closed. It contains only acceptable waste: folded cereal boxes, trimmed produce scraps, a polite amount of eggshells. Mrs. Phelps nods. You feel the thrill of minor victory. But then you see it. A rogue can down the block, overturned, spilling chaos onto the asphalt. Not yours, not today, but someone else has erred. The tribunal will reconvene. You take a deep breath. Garbage day is over. for now, but the cycle never ends. It's Saturday, a beautiful day to sit outside hoping for peace. But sitting is a statement. Which chair you choose, how you angle it, what beverage you sip, all of it matters. You just wanted a quiet moment in the sun, a little fresh air, maybe a newspaper and a glass of something cold. But in the 1950s suburb, nothing is ever truly casual. Every outdoor action is a coded message. The chairs are not chairs, they are declarations of rank. You unfold your humble lounger, a little rusty. The nylon straps have faded from cheerful to ambiguous. One strap frays just enough to threaten betrayal, but not enough to demand repair. You adjust your angle to face the street, the universal signal for I'm open to conversation but only if you bring cookies. Then he arrives, Carl, across the street, always wearing a tucked-in polo and a smirk that implies his car gets waxed weekly. He opens his garage with the click of a remote, yes, a remote, as if he is some sort of astronaut, and rolls out his chair ensemble with the grace of a man unveiling a new line of convertibles. 4 chairs, matching, clean. The aluminum glints in the sunlight like weaponry. Each chair has a cup holder. Each cup holder holds a bottle of chilled soda. He follows this with the sun umbrella, red and white striped. It blooms with the flourish of a matador's cape, casting the entire driveway in perfect shade. He does not squint. He does not sweat. You pretend not to notice. You focus on your newspaper, which is half unread and flapping weakly in the breeze. Your lemonade is lukewarm, store brand, served in a cup with a small crack that pinches your lip if you sip too quickly. Carl waves. You wave back. He asks how your lawn is holding up in the heat. You say fine. He nods slowly, knowingly, as if you've just admitted to hosting termites. Behind you, your spouse opens the door and whispers that Carl just installed a bird bath that plays music. Solar-powered, with a timer. You do not respond. You cannot respond. You are locked in a diplomatic standoff. Down the block others emerge. Evelyn brings out a rocking chair. Real wood. A cushion stitched by hand, possibly by elves. Across the way, the Parkers unfurl an entire patio set with coordinated pillows. You look around. Your lawn chair has become a folding apology. You attempt to hold ground. You reach for a snack. A sleeve of saltines. Crumbs scatter. Carl unwraps something that might be homemade biscotti. You place a cracker on your tongue and pretend it's caviar. It does not help. A breeze picks up. Your umbrella, your small lopsided sunshade purchased during a hardware store clearance event, topples sideways and nearly impales your tulips. Carl does not laugh, but his eyes twinkle with restrained glee. The war escalates. Evelyn offers iced tea in tall glasses with mint. The Parkers bring out a tray of deviled eggs. Carl unveils a cooler, extracts a glass bottle of root beer, and pops the cap with a flick of his keychain. The bottle hisses like a challenge. You retreat indoors to refill your lemonade, while inside you swap your cup for the slightly less embarrassing one with the faded cartoon bear. You return to your chair, only to find the sun has shifted, and you are now squinting into nuclear glare. Carl remains shaded, effortless. You adjust your chair, catch your finger on the rusted hinge, and pretend the hiss of pain is a sneeze. By sunset, the neighbourhood glows with the smug satisfaction of people who won a war no one declared. You fold your chair. Slowly, quietly. You carry it inside like a wounded soldier. Next weekend you vow to return stronger. You will polish the hinges. You will bring soda with actual fizz. You might even find a pillow. because in this neighbourhood, comfort is politics, and you are ready to run for office. You're invited to a Tupperware party. It begins with an innocent envelope slipped into your mailbox, a pink card with embossed lettering and a smiling cartoon woman holding a container. You are cordially invited to an afternoon of fun, friendship and freshness. You assume it is harmless. You assume wrong. You arrive at the party wearing your second best blouse and a nervous smile. The living room has been transformed into a showroom. On the table sits an empire of plastic. Lids in every pastel shade of the 1950s, stacks of bowls that nest like Russian dolls, a picture that promises to seal in flavour with a twist. And in the centre, a hostess named Patty or Marlene or something equally wholesome, wearing an apron that says "Seal the Deal." There are snacks, deviled eggs arranged on a colour-coordinated tray, tiny sandwiches with no crusts, punch with suspicious foam. You take a sip, you nod at the tray, you try to blend in. Patty begins the demonstration. She's part ringmaster, part cult leader, part container evangelist. She extols the virtues of Tupperware like it is blessed by the gods of refrigeration. She presses the lid. You hear the burp. The room gasps in reverence. You're handed a bowl. You burp the lid. It feels wrong, intimate. The woman next to you giggles and says, "Oh, you'll get the hang of it." You do not want to get the hang of it. You want to go home and pretend your food tastes the same, stored under a plate. Then comes the catalogue. Patty passes it out like sacred scripture. Every page glistens with plastic promise. There are sections for dry goods, for salads, for sandwich wedges. There is a thing just for radishes. You did not know radishes required specialized storage. The order form arrives. You freeze. You're expected to buy something, to support the hostess, to prove you care about freshness. But your budget is already in a cold war with your grocery list, and the thought of spending real money on a modular celery vault makes your stomach knot. Someone suggests hosting your own party. The room turns, eyes widen. There are nods, encouragement. You laugh nervously. You say maybe. They say definitely. You panic. You circle the deviled egg keeper. It's only been used once, Patty assures you, but it has a lid and a handle and a spot for parsley garnish. You don't even like deviled eggs. You buy it anyway. The applause is subtle, but real. Patty gives you a magnet with her phone number and a sticker that says "Proud Tupper Fan." You shove it in your purse and avoid eye contact. On the drive home, the guilt sets in. You now own a container designed for an event you host once every 5 years. You do the math. It has cost you $4 per egg compartment. You console yourself by deciding to become the kind of person who regularly transports deviled eggs. You know you're lying. You hide the container in the back of your pantry next to the fondue set you used last year and the novelty gelatin mold shaped like a fish. Every so often you see it and feel a pang of plastic shame. But next week, Patty calls. She wants to know if you're ready to host. You say you're thinking about it. You lie again. She says she'll pencil you in. You hang up. You look at the deviled egg keeper. It stares back. In the 1950s, even your leftovers carry the weight of social expectation, and no one escapes the burp. It's another beautiful day. But in this neighbourhood, there are rules you didn't know you were expected to memorize. Invisible lines you're not supposed to cross. Manners you're meant to instinctively understand. Your child rides his trike across property lines. This is a violation. You knew letting him outside unsupervised for 6 minutes was a risk, but you needed to check the roast, or answer the phone, or hide in the linen closet for a brief and precious moment of silence. You thought he'd stick to your driveway. He always does, until today. The trike in question is red, a hand-me-down with one squeaky pedal and streamers that look like wilted celery. He is 3.5. He means no harm, but as he crossed the invisible line where your sidewalk ends and Mrs. Simmons begins, a ripple spread through the street like a cold front of judgment. Mrs. Simmons saw it. Of course she did. She was out front as always, hydrating her flower bed with the clinical precision of a battlefield nurse. She paused mid-spray, narrowed her eyes, and watched as your child coasted 3 full inches into forbidden land. You might have gotten away with it if he had reversed, if he had looked sorry. But no. He rang the bell, twice, cheerfully, then circled her garden gnome like it was a maypole and returned to your property with zero awareness that he had triggered a neighbourhood-level crisis. By the time you opened the front door and called him in, she was already dialing. The phone cord stretched taut across her kitchen as she informed Betty next door, who informed Fran across the street, who casually mentioned it to her cousin at the library, who happened to be researching child psychology that very afternoon. Now there is concern, not outright condemnation, not yet. Just a thin layer of suspicion like powdered sugar on a judgment cake. Was it a one-time event? Does he have boundaries? Is he enrolled in preschool? Do you even discipline? Reader's Digest has thoughts. Someone drops off a back issue with a yellow sticky note on page 47. It includes a helpful article titled Teaching Respect Through Spatial Awareness. There's a cartoon of a smiling boy stopping at a picket fence. It is very pointed. Later that week you receive an invitation to coffee. Not the fun kind, the serious kind. In Mrs. Simmons' living room, there is lemon cake and passive aggression. She serves your slice slightly smaller. You are asked how things are going, how the roast turned out, whether you've looked into fencing. You nod, you smile, you thank her for the cake, you promise to keep a closer eye. You consider buying a leash. You go home and sit in your kitchen, staring into your coffee until it goes cold. That night, you try to explain the concept of property lines to your 3-year-old. He nods solemnly and asks if he can have a cookie. You do not know if the message landed. The next day he rides his trike in perfect circles chanting, "I'm on my own sidewalk," like a tiny bureaucrat in training. You install a decorative border of rocks. You say it's for landscaping. Everyone knows it is a trike deterrent. The Simmons house remains silent. The begonias flourish. Weeks pass. You are slowly forgiven, or at least the attention shifts. Someone's dog gets loose and knocks over a flamingo. A husband forgets trash day. A mailbox is painted slightly the wrong shade of green. Scandals bloom like mushrooms in damp suburban soil. But you never forget. The line is real. The sidewalk is watched. The trike is cleaned and kept in the garage. And every time you pass Mrs. Simmons' begonias, you nod politely and pretend your child never committed a vehicular offence on sacred ground. You come up with the great idea to host a dinner. It feels simple at first, just good food, a few neighbours, a pleasant evening round the table. But the moment the thought settles in, you realise it's never quite that easy. It began with a simple invitation. You thought it would be a friendly get-together, a few neighbours, a roast, maybe some green beans with slivered almonds. Nothing too fancy. But in the 1950s, dinner is never just dinner. It is performance, diplomacy, warfare in high heels and oven mitts. You scrubbed the house until it sparkled like a dentist's office. You polished silver that hadn't seen the light of day since your wedding. You ironed the good tablecloth. You even made the fancy gelatin salad with carrot slivers that no one eats, but everyone recognizes as effort. Your chicken was perfect, crispy skin, seasoned with garlic salt and quiet desperation. You set the table with what you had: 2 matching candle holders, 3 wine glasses that sort of looked related, and a stack of paper napkins folded to resemble optimism. You felt good, proud even, until she walked in. Elaine, the neighbour with a kitchen that belongs in a Sears catalogue and a voice that carries across cul-de-sacs. She arrived with her husband, a smug bottle of Bordeaux, and something covered in embroidered linen. You should have known. Dinner begins smoothly. You smile. You refill water. You tell a charming story about your youngest child trying to microwave a crayon. Laughter. Warmth. Then Elaine leans in, sips her wine, and says, "Oh dear, I wish I had known it was a casual dinner. I would have brought the Merlot instead." You laugh politely. Everyone hears it. No one moves. She compliments the chicken. She says it reminds her of a trip to Des Moines. You do not ask for clarification. You do not want it. She talks about duck, French duck à l'orange, with zest. You nod. You sip your wine like it's courage in a glass. Her husband mentions the candlesticks, imported, polished brass, a wedding gift from someone titled, you glance at yours, bought in a rush at Woolworths during a clearance event that also featured ashtrays shaped like poodles. The meal continues. You serve jello, lime, with pears. It wobbles with dignity. Elaine smiles and says, "Oh, how retro." Then she excuses herself and returns from her car. Her car, with a flaming dessert, baked Alaska. It has layers. It has meringue. It arrives with a flourish and the smell of toasted triumph. The room applauds. You pretend not to care. You retreat to the kitchen to refill the water pitcher and silently scream into a pot holder. You glance at your apron. It has gravy on it. You do not remember spilling gravy. Later, when the guests leave, they thank you. They say it was lovely, that the chicken was just what they needed, that your home feels real. You do not believe them. You smile and close the door and immediately begin questioning your entire domestic identity. You wander through your dining room like a defeated general surveying a battlefield. The gelatin stands untouched. The candle wax has dripped in a direction that feels symbolic. One of the wine glasses is cracked. You rinse it anyway. The next day, Elaine drops off a thank you card, handwritten, on stationery embossed with her monogram. Inside is a recipe, duck à l'orange, with a little note. Thought you might like it. You place it in a drawer next to your forgotten hopes. That night you tell your spouse that next time you're ordering takeout and serving it on silver. You're only half joking. You also begin researching flambe techniques, because in the 1950s, every dinner table is a throne, and you are one missed soufflé away from exile. By morning, the sting of the dinner has faded into something quieter, but not less dangerous. Because in this suburbia, embarrassment doesn't evaporate. It migrates. It slips from the kitchen to the driveway, and from the dining room to the lawn. A boundary dispute begins. Your hedge is encroaching. Their trellis is leaning. A conversation turns into a standoff. Small, passive-aggressive gestures escalate. It started with a casual observation, a light comment about the shape of your boxwood hedge. Too round, too wild. You weren't sure. But it was made while holding pruning shears in one hand and iced tea in the other, which made it feel like a warning disguised as friendliness. You nodded, pretending you hadn't noticed their trellis had been slowly inching east all summer. It had, you'd measured, twice. But you were polite. Polite until you saw the second flamingo. The first one was confusing enough. A lone pink sentinel standing just a little too close to the edge of your yard. It looked innocent, maybe decorative. But then another appeared, and another. Soon there were 5. They stared at your hedge like they were plotting its downfall. You trimmed it, just to be safe. The next morning a wind chime went up. Not just any wind chime. A loud, metallic symphony of jangling vengeance that seemed to activate whenever you stepped outside. It played at dawn. It played at dusk. It played in your dreams. You bought earplugs. They were not enough. You tried reasoning. You casually mentioned your concern about property lines while pretending to water your petunias. The reply was immediate. "Oh, really? I was just about to mention that I think your tulips are reaching a little far this year." And just like that, the gauntlet was thrown. You consulted the deed. They consulted a measuring tape. You drew chalk lines. They installed a bird feeder with suspicious accuracy along the disputed zone. A blue jay began dive-bombing your cat. You questioned whether it had been trained. Your spouse suggested letting it go. You considered it. Until the hedge clipping mysteriously landed in your yard. Fresh, still green, snipped with surgical precision. You collected it in a paper bag and placed it gently on their porch like a botanical ceasefire offering. It was returned the next day in a shoebox labelled "Property of Others." You placed a gnome near the flamingos. Not just any gnome, a gnome holding binoculars, facing their kitchen window. Subtle, yet clear. They responded with a reflective garden ball the size of a basketball. It blinded you every afternoon. The neighbourhood took sides. Betty next door started referring to the whole thing as the incident. Kids rode by on their bikes whispering about the fence war. The mailman changed his route to avoid choosing a driveway. Then came the trellis repair. You watched from behind a curtain as your neighbour brought out a hammer, a level and 3 new wooden slats. You stood on your porch, arms crossed, ready to engage. But instead, she waved. A small wave. A white flag of peace wave. You waved back. Slightly. She called over, "You know, I was thinking about putting in some lavender between our yards. Butterflies love it." You nodded. Butterflies were neutral. Butterflies were good. By the end of the week, the wind chime had been moved to the back porch. You returned 2 of the flamingos in a diplomatic basket with a note that read, "No hard feelings, but your birds are starting to unionize." She laughed. You laughed. A boundary was re-established, not of land, but of tolerance. And the hedge, you trimmed it just enough to breathe. In the suburbs of the 1950s, diplomacy is measured in inches, sometimes in flamingos, but mostly in who blinks first while pretending to garden. It's never a dull moment in this neighbourhood. Calm here is always temporary. More of a pause than a promise. 1 minute everything is quiet. Sprinklers humming, curtains half drawn, coffee cups cooling on porches. The next, a single comment slips into the air. Someone says something. Someone repeats it. Someone adds flair. You're in the gossip crossfire. It started like all good scandals do, with dessert. You were at a coffee morning sipping lukewarm Folgers from a cup with a faint lipstick mark that was not yours, when the plate of lemon bars appeared, perfectly cut squares. Powdered sugar dusted like a crime scene. You took one. You nodded. You thought nothing of it. That was your mistake. By the following Tuesday, a rumour had hatched, grown legs, and sprinted across 4 lawns. You allegedly made a comment. Something about how lemon bars should not make your face pucker like a war ration pickle. Something about decency and proper sweetness. You had no memory of this. But who knows? You were tired. Maybe you made a joke. Maybe your eyebrows betrayed you. Now Mrs. Doyle will not meet your eyes. The first sign was at bridge night. Her smile did not reach her cheeks. Her cards were slapped down just a little too hard. When you reached for the snack tray, she turned it ever so slightly away from you. Casual. Calculated. Cold. You tried to clarify. You said the lemon bars were delightful, zesty, invigorating. She narrowed her eyes and asked if invigorating was the same as sharp. You said no. She said, You knew you were doomed. So you panicked. You overcompensated. You saw Helen's new drapes and said they were exquisite. The exact word was regal. She looked startled. Her husband looked confused. No one had ever called their drapes regal before. The fabric was rayon. The pattern was pears. The next day someone mentioned that you were trying too hard, that your compliments came laced with sarcasm, that perhaps you were spiralling. You baked cookies, peace-offering cookies. You wrapped them in pink cellophane and delivered them by hand. But the message was received as guilt, not goodwill. Someone said you were trying to distract from the lemon bar slander, that you were buttering up the whole block with Toll House and shame. The gossip moved fast. You could almost hear it, whispered over fences, disguised as advice at the beauty parlour, murmured during choir practice in tones so soft they could be mistaken for hymns. You began to question everything, every look, every nod, every invitation you did not receive. You reread your thank you notes to check for passive aggression. You rewrote your grocery list in case someone saw it. Then came the block potluck. Mrs. Doyle brought lemon bars again, extra lemony, double dusted. The symbolism was not subtle. You took one. You ate it with great enthusiasm. You said, "Oh my goodness, these are just the right amount of tart." Loud enough for 3 tables to hear. A silence fell. Mrs. Doyle stared at you. Then slowly she said, "Well, thank you. I adjusted the recipe." You smiled. You lived. For now. The gossip tide began to turn. Someone else made an unfortunate comment about deviled eggs and became the new focus. You were free, not cleared, but redirected. Weeks later, you saw Mrs. Doyle at the grocery store. She smiled. She handed you a recipe card for lemon bars. It was unsigned. It was a test. You passed. You filed it carefully in your box under desserts and apologies. In the 1950s, gossip is currency. A lemon bar is never just a dessert. And one overly enthusiastic compliment can trigger a chain reaction that ends with passive-aggressive bundt cake. Choose your words carefully, and for heaven's sake never insult citrus. It's the 4th of July. The whole neighbourhood gathers. There are flags, sparklers, and suspicious potato salad. You arrive with a smile and a cooler full of reconciliation dip. You make small talk. Someone compliments your new lawn chairs. For one brief moment, everything feels fine. You thought it was behind you. The trellis war, the lemon bar scandal, the lawn chair diplomacy debacle of Memorial Day. You've spent the last months carefully rebuilding your suburban reputation like a Cold War nation re-entering trade talks. You've hosted a baby shower. You've donated to the school band. You even returned Fran's casserole dish and added a bow. So this party is supposed to be your big re-entry, your peaceful coup. You wore your best gingham. You brought a 7-layer dip. You smiled at even Carol, who once suggested your patio umbrella, clashed with your soul. The grill is fired up. Patriotic bunting flaps from Mrs. Doyle's porch like everything's fine. Children run wild with popsicles and sugar highs. The men talk about lawnmowers and pretend the stakes are a matter of national security. The women swap casserole recipes with weaponized undertones, and for a moment, you are winning. Betty compliments your new folding chairs, aluminum with mint green webbing, matching, sleek. You casually mention you got them on sale, and there's an audible gasp of respect. You are offered a slice of watermelon without conditions. Someone laughs at your joke about potato salad texture. You feel powerful, belonging. Then it happens. Someone mentions your mailbox, not in a hostile tone, not even accusatory, just casual, curious. Carol says, "Oh, I saw you painted it beige. Interesting choice. Very interesting." You freeze mid-scoop, your chip hovers over the dip like a helicopter stuck in traffic. Beige, you say. Yes, neutral, understated, pairs well with the shutters. There is a pause. Fran tilts her head. It was green before, right? A shorter pause. Yes, you say. A mistake. Too bold. Too hopeful. Murmurs ripple. Someone asks if it's an official HOA approved shade. There is no HOA, but this does not stop the speculation. Someone else swears they read a study about neutral tones reducing neighborhood anxiety. You pretend you've read it too. Your dip starts to sweat. You pivot. You offer more lemonade. You mention the fireworks. You compliment Helen's deviled eggs, which may be store-bought but are artfully arranged. The moment passes. You survived. By dusk, sparklers are lit. Children spell their names in smoke. A transistor radio plays patriotic jazz. Someone has set up a folding table of desserts, and your dip is nearly gone. People are smiling at you again. Someone says, "You should host next year." You accept before thinking. As the sky darkens and the first fireworks boom overhead, you sit in your mint green chair, plate of suspicious fruit salad on your lap, and breathe. It's not peace. Not exactly. But it's something better. A truce. A tentative nod from Mrs. Simmons. A shared laugh with Elaine. Even Carol asks where you bought your dip bowl. You tell her. Honestly. Because in the suburbs of the 1950s, redemption comes in stages. First, they question your mailbox. Then they eat your dip. And maybe, just maybe, they let you back into the sacred circle of respectability. You lean back, watching the sky explode in patriotic noise. A child runs past waving a sparkler. Someone sings off-key. The potato salad remains untouched, as it should be, and in the glow of fireworks and citronella candles, your neighborhood finally feels like a place where maybe, just maybe, you belong. You've survived the neighborhood, the lawn inspections, the side-eye over your trash cans, the polite smiles that meant absolutely nothing. But now, the pressure moves indoors, because in 1950s America it wasn't enough to be respectable. You had to prove it, preferably over a gelatin mold. Let's step into the dining room and discover why hosting in the 1950s was a social minefield. The words dinner party sounds fun in theory, like something out of a Doris Day movie. But in practice it is a high-stakes social Olympics with the threat of reputation damage hanging in the air like improperly whipped meringue. You are not just feeding people, you are feeding opinions. And in this era, opinions are garnished with paprika and presented in a mid-century dish shaped like a leaf. Immediately the calculations begin. What night is safest? Friday is tempting, but Mrs. Greer always holds her bridge game then, and if she hears about your little gathering second-hand, she will spend the next 3 PTA meetings speaking in coded shade. Thursday? Too risky. People are still recovering from whatever casserole-based incident befell them on Wednesday. Saturday is ideal, but now you are competing with church committee dinners, and one unfortunate neighbour who always throws themed events involving costumes and tap dancing. You settle on Sunday. It feels neutral, non-threatening, almost holy. Surely no one can judge you on a Sunday. Once the date is set, the anxiety blooms. Invitations are issued with the quiet urgency of a covert mission. It all starts with an innocent phone call, or what appears to be one. "Oh, we simply must have you over for dinner soon," you say, as if you have not already started diagramming a seating chart and pricing out 3 types of pudding. Everyone accepts. Of course they do. It is 1953. People do not have excuses. They have casseroles and grudges. The minute you hang up, you feel it. That tiny clench behind the eyes. The realization that you have just committed to a full week of anxious vacuuming, creative gelatin experiments, and your husband forgetting to pick up cocktail napkins until the hour of the event. You stare into the rotary phone like it might apologize. It does not. Your guest list grows faster than you expect. The Morgans, because they just had you over for Swedish meatballs and mild political propaganda. The Parkers, because their niece is in town and they want to show her you have normal friends. And the Crawfords, who no one particularly likes, but who must be invited or risk social fallout so large it could knock over your ceramic duck collection. With the head count locked, the real descent begins. You make a list. Then a second list. Then a cross-referenced index card system you pretend is casual. You lie awake at night wondering if your table can seat all guests. It cannot. You consider borrowing a card table, but remember that the last time you did that, it wobbled during dessert and nearly took out Mrs. Pratt and her lemon chiffon. Your husband is no help. When told of the event, he makes a noise halfway between a grunt and a sigh, then asks if there will be olives. You consider replacing him with a fondue pot. Less talk, more heat. In the days that follow, every conversation becomes a test run. What will you say when the Crawfords arrive early, as they always do? How will you subtly brag about your new vacuum without sounding like you're bragging about your new vacuum? Which story will you tell to charm the group, and which ones will you quietly murder in your memory because they involve ex-boyfriends, botched Jell-O, or that one incident with the flaming centerpiece? By the time Sunday rolls around, you are not a person. You're a tightly coiled social mechanism running on nerves, lipstick, and the terrifying hope that your ham does not taste like rubber. The invitation was the easy part. The performance will begin soon. It's time to get ready for the day. You own precisely one hosting dress. It's powder blue, covered in tiny bows, and might be flammable. The transformation from civilian to hostess is not unlike the launch sequence of a small spacecraft. There are stages, layers, and a lot of sweating. You begin with the foundation garment, which is a cheerful name for something that feels like being stuffed into a sausage casing by an aggressive aunt. The girdle takes several minutes and a firm wall to lean on. It is elastic, judgmental, and comes with the faint smell of despair. By the time it's on, your organs have signed a resignation letter. Next comes the bra. It has structure, ambition, and 2 cups shaped like traffic cones. There's no adjusting once it's on. Your chest now points confidently toward the heavens, ready for liftoff or light armor combat. The matching slip slides on like a whisper and bunches like a threat. You ignore it. The dress itself is a marvel. It zips up the back, which means you either need your husband's help or an upper body rotation that qualifies as interpretive dance. You wiggle, tug, pray, and finally get it into place. It is snug. Too snug. You haven't even had a cracker yet, and already you're fantasizing about unzipping it behind a potted plant after dessert. But it's the only one that makes you look like someone who might be featured in a Good Housekeeping spread titled Grace Under Pressure. Accessories are chosen with the gravity of a court appearance. The shoes are kitten heels, the only pair you can wear without crying. They match the dress, which is the sort of miracle that earns you bonus points in the invisible beauty pageant you are accidentally competing in. The stockings are delicate, slightly uneven, and vaguely terrifying. You broke 3 pairs before getting this one on. Jewellery is minimal but strategic. The pearls are real, or real adjacent. You polish them on your sleeve and fasten them around your neck like a talisman. Earrings are clip-ons that will leave angry little reminders of your commitment to beauty embedded in your earlobes for days. A brooch may be added. It will stab you at least once during the evening and you will not react. Makeup is war paint. Foundation, powder, blush, and a shade of blue eyeshadow designed to be seen from orbit. Mascara is applied with a trembling hand and the concentration of a neurosurgeon. One wrong move and you'll spend the night blinking like a haunted doll. The lipstick is red. Very red. The kind of red that leaves permanent marks on glasses, napkins, and the psyche of any man bold enough to kiss you. Hair is its own separate crisis. You set it the night before in curlers the size of soup cans and slept on them like a martyr. In the morning you brushed it into place with a mixture of hope and prayer. It sprayed into a sculpture that will not move for the next 72 hours. Not even under direct artillery fire. Your bangs have been shaped with more architectural integrity than the local bank. Finally, you check yourself in the mirror. You look shiny, poised, slightly terrified. You take a deep breath and hear your girdle creak in warning, but you are ready. You are dressed not for comfort, not even for style. You are dressed for battle. The kind fought with casseroles, cutlery, and that one woman from church who always asks if you've gained weight. Today your dress is not just fabric, it is armour, and God help anyone who spills gravy on it. Time to stage the set. The magazines are fanned out on the coffee table like a trap. The ashtray is empty, the cushions fluffed to an unnatural height. You've hidden the ugly lamp, the questionable art, and the ash-burned afghan your cousin knit. This room must scream effortless elegance, while quietly whispering, "Please don't look under the couch." Every surface in this room has been scrubbed to the point of existential reflection. The coffee table is polished within an inch of its laminate life. The end tables shine like they've seen things. And the baseboards, those tiny forgotten ledgers of social doom, have been wiped clean with a damp rag and several prayers. If anyone brings up how clean your baseboards are, you know they looked too hard. That's a red flag. That's war. The magazines are curated with the obsessive energy of a museum exhibit. Ladies' Home Journal, Better Homes and Gardens, and one rogue, National Geographic, for intellectual credibility. Each is placed just slightly overlapping the next, as if they simply fell that way in a spontaneous burst of charm. You know better. You spent 10 minutes arranging them, and then rearranging them again, after realizing the top issue had an ad for hemorrhoid cream. The curtains are drawn just so, allowing in a warm glow of natural light that you have painstakingly timed with the sun's location. You opened them 2 inches to the left for ambience, then closed them a half inch to avoid glare. You are now deeply emotionally attached to curtain angles. The couch is wearing its good slipcover, the one without mysterious stains or mystery crumbs. You sprayed it with just enough furniture polish to reflect dignity, but not so much that guests will slide off like greased eels. You've also fluffed the throw pillows until they resemble small angry clouds. Their primary purpose is not comfort, it is intimidation. On the shelf, you've displayed your most harmless books. Nothing political, nothing too romantic. A mix of cookbooks, etiquette manuals, and one large dictionary because it suggests you know words. You dusted each spine, alphabetized them, removed that one title with the racy cover your sister lent you. She has bad taste and no shame. Scent is critical. You lit a candle 3 hours ago and then blew it out precisely 10 minutes ago, so the room smells subtly inviting, but not like you're covering for something dead in the walls. You placed a bowl of potpourri near the entryway. It is decorative. It smells vaguely like old soap and pine. No one likes it, but everyone pretends to. The record player is loaded with something instrumental. Jazz, maybe. Something with enough rhythm to suggest sophistication, but not enough volume to overpower passive-aggressive compliments. You've tested the needle, the volume, and practiced saying, "Oh, that," just something I picked up at the shop downtown, in case someone compliments your musical taste. You've also hidden anything that might imply struggle. The overdue bill shoved in the drawer, the laundry basket relocated to the garage, the half-darned sock that was living on the armrest for a week. Gone. This is no longer your living room. This is a stage, and you, dear host, are about to perform. You sit for a test moment on the couch. Too bouncy. You remove one pillow. Try again. Better. You sip water like it's a martini and glance around, scanning for anything that might betray you. A scuff on the floor. A crooked frame. A rogue raisin under the radiator. All fixed in a flurry of quiet, focused panic. This is curated domestic bliss. It is smoke and mirrors with doilies, and when guests arrive, they will say how lovely it all looks, and you will smile, serene and composed, as if you didn't just Febreze a chair with the force of a fire hose, because that's what grace looks like in the 1950s. Clean rugs, fake calm, and the ability to pretend this is how you live all the time. 2 words. Casserole roulette. You've committed to an ambitious menu involving meat suspended in gelatin and a mayonnaise-based dip that looks like regret in a ramekin. Something's burning. Something's undercooked. The oven timer has betrayed you, and the fridge is making a noise that sounds like it's losing the will to refrigerate. Also, you forgot to defrost the pie. You try to remain calm. After all, you have a plan. You wrote it out in pencil on an index card last night while wearing your night cream and trying not to cry. Each dish is timed down to the minute. First the ham loaf, then the carrots, which need to be boiled into submission, then the aspic salad, which has already set into something between food and performance art. But the ham is too pink, the carrots are too hard, and the aspic is sweating, which you didn't even know was possible. You open the oven. A wave of humid meat air hits you like a scented threat. The loaf is browning aggressively on one side and not at all on the other. You rotate it like you're diffusing a bomb. The oven mitt slips. Your elbow grazes the rack. You do not scream. You hiss quietly, as is tradition. Back at the stovetop, your double boiler is not boiling. It is sulking. The hollandaise sauce you optimistically planned is now separating into something that resembles mood swings. You add more butter, then more. It doesn't help, but at least you feel like you're doing something. In the corner, your electric mixer gurgles with malicious intent. It has one job. It is failing at it. The refrigerator hum has become a whimper. You open it to check the Jell-O mould, which is supposed to be lemon lime with a surprise layer of shredded carrot. The surprise is that it is still liquid. You poke it. It sloshes. You close the door like you're sealing a crypt and mutter something about betrayal. The dip you made earlier sits on the counter, sweating in its own sadness. It is pale, lumpy, and faintly resembles something found in a science exhibit about mould. You try to fluff it with a fork. It resists. You garnish it with paprika and hope no one looks directly at it. You glance at the clock. Guests are arriving in 45 minutes, which sounds like plenty of time unless you count the fact that you still have to set the table, fix your lipstick, hide the broken mixer, reheat the rolls, and solve the mystery of the missing pie. The pie. You rush to the freezer. There it is, rock solid. A perfect edible glacier wrapped in foil and shame. You run it under lukewarm water and whisper empty promises to it. You start multitasking in a way that defies physics. One hand on the stove, one hand smoothing a tablecloth, one foot nudging the cat away from the deviled eggs. You stir, pour, whisk, chop, and sweat. You are now 70% effort, 20% anxiety, and 10% mayonnaise. A spoon clatters to the floor. You bend to retrieve it, bump the open oven door and launch a potholder across the room. It lands in the butter. You blink 3 times, then calmly decide the butter was never important anyway. At some point, everything is technically ready. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is quite hot or cold enough. But it is all presentable from a safe distance. The ham loaf holds together. The carrots look edible if you squint. The Jell-O has stopped sloshing. Mostly. You adjust your apron, fix your lipstick, and wipe one final smear of sauce off the cabinet door. The kitchen looks like a crime scene, but the battle is over. You have survived the spiral. You are victorious. You are exhausted, and your pie is still frozen solid. But you will serve it anyway. Your husband emerges 10 minutes before the guests arrive, smelling like aqua velva and accomplishment. He adjusts his cufflinks like he's about to receive a medal, and asks with a straight face if there's anything he can do to help. You hand him a tray of deviled eggs. He immediately drops a toothpick into one of them, mutters something about slippery garnishes, and is never seen in the kitchen again. This is his signature move. Appear late, offer vague help, fumble once, retreat. He disappears to check the stereo, which involves leaning meaningfully over the record player while doing absolutely nothing for 45 minutes. You will find him there later, alphabetizing your Doris Day albums like it's a critical wartime assignment. He has spent the last 2 hours not helping. He was in the den, barefoot, drinking a beer, asking thoughtful questions from a safe distance, such as whether you needed him to pick up anything or if there was time for a quick shave. You were, at that moment, elbow deep in mayonnaise and boiling carrots, trying not to cry into a bowl of sweating aspic. You responded by saying "fine" through clenched teeth, which he interpreted as approval. Now, freshly changed and suddenly charming, he leans against the doorframe of the living room and surveys the space like he had any role in its transformation. He compliments the scent, which could refer to the roast, the floor polish, or your very expensive perfume that you now regret wasting on this evening. You thank him anyway, because there is no time for a trial. You ask him to light the candles. He lights one, burns his finger, makes a noise like a startled dog, and leaves the room in search of sympathy and ointment. He returns several minutes later with a single candle lit and a band-aid, then attempts to open the wine. You watch as he wrestles the cork like it owes him money. The cork wins. He eventually pries it free with the screwdriver from the junk drawer. The bottle now has character. You ask if he'll greet the guests when they arrive. He agrees but vanishes again, this time to adjust the volume on the record player. You later find him flipping through liner notes and bobbing his head to something vaguely jazzy, as if this counts as emotional support. Meanwhile, you're flying around the house like a caffeine-addled tornado, wiping smudges off the good serving spoons and fluffing your couch cushions for the 4th time. You fish an ice cube out of a salad bowl and pretend not to cry. You glance at the clock. 5 minutes. He re-emerges, calm and composed, tucks a cocktail napkin into his tux pocket, and stands ready near the door like a game show host about to hand out a prize. You, in contrast, have a sweat halo, a frizzing hairline, and a blouse that is beginning to stick in places blouses should never stick. Because in the 1950s, the man in the tux gets credit just for standing there. He is charming, polished, admired, and you, the woman behind the casserole curtain, will simply vanish into the background, smelling faintly of jello and suppressed rage. The chime echoes like a sentence. You smooth your dress, ignore the sweat pooling in your shoes, and smile like a Stepford gladiator. The door opens and the first wave pours in with the urgency of people trying not to seem urgent. Guests enter, bearing lukewarm side dishes and passive-aggressive compliments. "Oh, you made the centerpiece yourself. How brave." Let the psychological warfare begin. There is chatter, perfume, coat shuffling, and the unmistakable thud of a fruit salad in a ceramic bowl that weighs more than your cat. Someone hands you a casserole dish wrapped in a floral towel and says, "I wasn't sure if it would keep, but I figured better safe than salmonella." You thank them like they just presented you with royal tribute. Your husband stands nearby, beaming like he painted the walls himself and birthed the floral arrangements from his very soul. He takes coats. Poorly, he hangs a jacket on a chair, balances a fur stole on the banister, leaves a hat on top of the stereo. Each item slowly becomes a hazard. Eventually you will trip over a galoshes pile in your heels and take down a guest with you like a small, well-dressed avalanche. You usher people into the living room where the curated chaos awaits. Guests comment politely. "So tasteful. So cozy. Is that a new rug?" You nod. It is not. You vacuumed it for 45 minutes and used a lint roller the size of a fire extinguisher. But yes, let's pretend it's new. The first guest inspects your bookshelf. She pulls out a copy of Emily Post and flips it open like she's checking your work. Another peruses your magazines and pauses just long enough to silently judge your choice of cover stories. You ask if anyone wants a drink. They all do, at once, with different requests. You rush to the kitchen, pour 4 glasses of sherry and one of something that might be ginger ale or might be cooking wine. You no longer care. You return, arms full, and distribute the glasses while smiling so hard your cheeks begin to tremble. One guest sniffs the sherry and says, "Oh, this reminds me of something I drank once in a dentist's office." You pretend not to hear. There is small talk. So much small talk. Weather. Road conditions. A recipe someone cut from a magazine and now insists on describing in real time while you nod and grip your glass like a lifeline. A man you barely know asks if your husband still plays golf. You say yes, though you have not seen a single golf club since 1949. The centerpiece, the one you spent 2 hours assembling out of pine cones, silk ribbon, and a glue gun injury, becomes a topic. It is called interesting. bold. One woman taps it with her nail and says, "I love how you went rustic." It sounds like a compliment. It is not. You smile anyway. Two children appear. You don't know who brought them. They are holding a candy dish and licking every peppermint before putting them back. You make eye contact with their mother. She sips her drink and looks away. You check the clock. It has been 11 minutes. It feels like a week. You excuse yourself to the kitchen, where you take a single deep breath next to the fridge, refluff your hair, and whisper, "Don't you dare cry into the deviled eggs." You straighten your dress, reapply lipstick, return to the battlefield. The guests are now circling the hors d'oeuvres like vultures with dietary restrictions. Someone asks what's in the dip. You tell them. They say, and do not take any. A man picks up a cracker, sniffs it, and puts it back. He does not make eye contact. You make a note to find his car and slash his tires with your salad tongs. The doorbell rings again. Reinforcements. You retighten your smile, shoulders back, chin up. One last breath. Showtime. Toothpicks everywhere. Olives. Pineapple cubes. A meatball so dense it might cause a dental emergency. One brave soul attempts to spread warm cheese on a Triscuit and ends up flinging it onto the carpet. You feign delight. Inside, you're wondering if this is how empires fall. This is not just a snack table. This is a battlefield dressed in doilies. Every platter is a trap. Every dip is a gamble. The deviled eggs are holding together by faith alone. The crab dip is suspiciously warm. The crackers are stale in a way that makes you question the structural integrity of your dental work. And still, everyone approaches as if they've been starved for 3 days and you're hosting the last known source of salt in the American Midwest. Someone spears an olive, misses, and flicks it directly into a potted fern. Another tries to use a single toothpick for 3 different appetizers, as if germs were not invented yet. A man in a camel blazer leans over the table and breathes on everything while telling a story about how he once grilled an entire trout in a hotel coffee maker. You begin to lose your grip on reality. You offer a tray of mini meatballs to a woman in a velvet shrug who accepts one with visible reluctance, then places it whole into her mouth and nods solemnly. This, you suspect, is solidarity. A different guest hovers over the ranch dip like a contemplative monk, then double dips with zero remorse while maintaining direct eye contact. You consider relocating to another state. The toothpicks multiply. You don't remember putting out this many. They seem to breed like spores in warm air. They end up everywhere. On the record cabinet, on the radiator, inside someone's shoe. You find one later tucked into your girdle like a souvenir from a party that tried to kill you. And then there's the cheese ball. A monstrosity the size of a grapefruit covered in crushed pecans and existential doubt. People admire it from a distance. A few make cautious attempts with brittle crackers that immediately snap, leaving behind splinters embedded like archaeological tools. One brave guest hacks at it with a serving knife, extracting a glob that slides off their plate and rolls across the table like a guilty marshmallow. They pretend nothing happened. You pretend you didn't see it. Someone knocks over the cocktail wiener platter. Not the entire thing, but enough to cause a cascade of tiny sausages skittering toward the edge of the table. You leap forward with the reflexes of a jungle cat, catching them in a serving spoon before they hit the carpet. Everyone laughs politely. You consider opening a second bottle of wine and drinking directly from it. One of your friends tries to help. She read a single article in Good Housekeeping and now fancies herself a canapé strategist. She rearranges the tray of shrimp cocktail into a radial formation that immediately collapses like a seafood sundial. She replaces toothpicks with mini forks, then swaps them back after a man with large fingers asks where the pokey things went. She smiles at you with pride. You smile back with the dead eyes of someone who has just watched a soufflé deflate in slow motion. Then someone brings out the Jell-O salad. Not yours. A guest creation. It contains grapes, shredded carrot, and what might be tuna. You smile so hard your eyelid twitches. People circle it cautiously, murmuring phrases like, "What a creative combination," and "I never would have thought of that," in a tone that suggests they never wanted to. A child asks if it's alive. You do not answer. Eventually the table looks like a war zone. There are broken crackers, empty toothpick holders, and a lone stuffed olive clinging to the edge of a napkin like it's escaping a sinking ship. Someone's pimento fell down a heating grate. Someone else mistook the butter mince for decorative soap. You refresh the platters. You wipe down the table. You reposition the meatballs. Again, it never ends. This is the price of hospitality. This is the unspoken agreement between host and guest. You feed them. They slowly destroy your home, one sticky cube at a time, and then someone compliments the spread. They say everything looks delicious. They ask if you catered. You say thank you. You lie. You say it was nothing. Because if you say the truth out loud that you spent 2 days curating this culinary carnival of disappointment and sodium, someone might offer to help. And that would be worse. The martinis are flowing. The gossip gets spicier. Cocktail hour was meant to be a soft opening, a gentle glide into the evening. Instead, it has morphed into a social centrifuge spinning wildly out of your control. You are now running drink triage. Someone wants more gin. Someone else swears they asked for scotch but is clearly holding a glass of white wine. There's a mysterious request for a pink thing and no further information. You nod like that's fine. You make it with grenadine and hope for the best. The liquor table, once neat and optimistic, now looks like the aftermath of a jazz-age bar brawl. Bottle caps everywhere. A glass rim crusted with sugar. The olives have formed a coalition in the corner of the serving dish and appear to be staging a quiet rebellion. A lime wedge has gone missing. You suspect foul play. Someone spills vermouth on the carpet and tries to blot it up with a decorative napkin shaped like a swan. The napkin dies a swift and soggy death. No one confesses. You find a damp corner and whisper to it like a soldier saying goodbye to a fallen comrade. Aunt Agnes has stationed herself near the sherry and is now telling a story that may be true but has grown suspiciously theatrical. She gestures wildly with a half-full glass, narrowly missing the buffet candelabra. Every sentence ends with a dramatic pause and a meaningful look around the room. Her earrings sway like bells of doom. Mr. Langley, emboldened by his third martini and his general lack of self-awareness, decides it's a good time to share his thoughts on city zoning laws, loudly. He speaks with the confidence of a man who once read half a newspaper article in 1948 and never looked back. His wife attempts to interrupt him by coughing delicately into a canapé, but he powers through. Someone starts the icebreaker game. You didn't plan this. You didn't ask for this. You have no idea where the cards came from. Now everyone is asking each other deeply personal questions from a floral box labelled Fun Conversation Prompts. One woman shares the story of her first kiss. Another confesses she doesn't believe in ironing. A man admits he never learned how to whistle and suddenly becomes the subject of unexpected sympathy. Meanwhile, the alcohol is working its dark magic. Laughter grows louder. Volume control disappears entirely. The man in the argyle vest begins singing along to the record player. It is not a song anyone else recognizes. He sways dramatically. No one stops him. You find yourself refilling 3 glasses at once, a gin, a brandy, and something called a golden Cadillac that involves cream liqueur and regret. You are a blur of hostess effort. The shaker squeaks. Your pantyhose itch. The waistband of your girdle is attempting mutiny. You smile so hard your teeth feel numb. Your own drink, abandoned hours ago on a side table, has been claimed by someone else. They lift it mid-sentence, sip it without flinching, and continue discussing their recent bridge victory like they just invented cards. You consider taking theirs, but that would require confrontation, and you've already used your monthly allotment of backbone in asking someone to please not feed cocktail sausages to the dog. The room swells with voices. Someone has turned up the music. A lamp flickers ominously. 2 guests have settled into a debate about taxes and butter rations. A child is playing with the ice bucket. You stop him right before he dunks his sock in it. You do not ask why. You refill more glasses. You pass around the cheese straws. You retrieve a martini glass from behind a curtain. You pretend not to notice a lipstick print on the punch ladle, and still, your own hand remains empty. This is cocktail hour in 1953. It is not a gentle slope. It is a spiral. And you are at its centre, spinning in heels, clutching a tray, smiling into the void. Eventually someone tells you to sit down, to relax, that you're doing too much. You thank them, you laugh. You stand perfectly still for 10 full seconds, then quietly go refill the ice. It's finally time for dinner. The table is long and narrow, a polished battlefield with matching placemats, and a centerpiece composed entirely of things that could catch fire. There are candles, pine cones, possibly some tinsel. One of the candles sputters ominously but refuses to die. A perfect metaphor for this dinner. Each place is set with surgical precision. Forks on the left, knives on the right. Napkins folded into fragile triangles like origami swans with a death wish. You practiced this layout on a paper diagram from Ladies' Home Journal, cross-referenced with a diagram from Better Homes and Gardens, and still managed to accidentally seat someone directly under the chandelier with a dangling crystal that keeps brushing their scalp like a tiny chandelier ghost. The gelatinous main course shudders slightly as you spoon it out. It does not slice so much as slurp into pieces. You plated it with a sprig of parsley that is immediately removed by your uncle, who says he's allergic to green things that are not jello or cash. The consistency is somewhere between custard and crime scene. No one knows what to say. The meatloaf ring holds its shape longer than anticipated. The gravy boat leaks like a wounded soldier. The green bean casserole is greeted with respectful silence until someone says, "Oh, this again," and 2 cousins exchange a glance that suggests someone once forgot a birthday and will never be forgiven. Across the table, someone is dissecting the rolls with surgical focus. They use a butter knife to extract precisely 1 square of margarine from the communal dish, then return it with such delicacy it becomes performance art. Someone else has taken 3 pats of butter and stacked them like poker chips. You say nothing. You focus on not dropping your fork. You focus on breathing through your nose. The topic of conversation shifts unpredictably. A neighbour's gallbladder surgery, a recent television episode, an UFO sighting near the old water tower. Mr. Langley begins to speculate that the government has been hiding something since 1947. He speaks through a mouthful of carrots, gesturing with a fork, while his wife nods slowly and drinks more wine. Someone's child begins to poke their mashed potatoes into the shape of a volcano. It erupts violently and lands on the sleeve of the woman next to them, who dabs at it with one of your decorative napkins. The napkin was embroidered. You say nothing. You chew your salad like it owes you money. Aunt Agnes tells a story that begins with the words "back in my day" and ends with an accusation that someone at the table once faked a fainting spell to avoid choir practice. The accused is now 42 years old and currently wearing a turtleneck. She denies nothing. Tension hangs in the air like a second chandelier. You ask if anyone wants more wine. Everyone does. You refill glasses with the speed of a seasoned sommelier in crisis. Someone asks if the wine is French. It is not. It is from a gas station with a coupon. You smile and say it's imported. The conversation grows louder, the silverware quieter. People have stopped pretending to cut their food. They now simply scoop and shovel. The rules of etiquette have collapsed. A man uses his roll to soak up gravy directly from the platter. Someone belches, someone else applauds. You catch your reflection in the window. You are glowing with effort and panic. Your pearls are askew. Your lipstick has migrated north. You have the posture of a hostage and the smile of someone who just accepted their fate. Then someone compliments the meal, a real compliment. They say the ham was tender. They say the salad dressing was lovely. You're so surprised you almost drop the salt shaker. You thank them with a voice that sounds like it belongs to a woman who remembers sleep. The meal crawls to a close. Plates are scraped. The table is a wreckage of crumbs and regret. And yet somehow you made it through dinner without weeping into the aspic. That is what we call a success. Someone inevitably needs the bathroom. You had one goal, one small, humble goal, to keep people out of the bathroom. You Febrezed it. You put out matching towels. You arranged the guest soap into a pyramid so delicate it could qualify as performance art. But no amount of scented candles can protect you from the chaos of a civilian breaching your porcelain fortress. The first warning sign comes when someone stands up from the table and mutters the fateful phrase, "Be right back." Your soul leaves your body. You watch helplessly as they wander toward the hallway with purpose and the confidence of someone who has never met your backup plunger. You pray they won't open the mirrored cabinet above the sink. Of course they do. Everyone does. It's a law of nature. You could put a lock on it, and they'd still find a way to access the half-empty bottle of lavender face mist you bought in 1947 during a brief attempt to reinvent yourself. They will judge it. They will judge everything. Then comes the worst sound, a pause, a flush, and nothing else. Your ears sharpen. You go still. You can hear the toilet trying. You can hear it groan like an old man being asked to stand. Then a faint gurgle. Then silence. This is the sound of doom. The guest re-emerges, calm on the outside, chaotic within. They lean in close and murmur the sentence every host fears. Your toilet is making a noise. They say it like it's your dog misbehaving, like the toilet has gone rogue and you should probably leash it. You nod, stiff as starch, and say, "Oh really," as if you didn't hear the exact same noise 2 days ago and deliberately ignored it. You hand them a candle. Not because it will help, but because candles are the universal symbol of please stop noticing things. They accept it, confused but obedient, and wander back toward the living room while the plumbing begins its low mechanical wheeze of vengeance. Then a child goes in. Of course. Children treat bathrooms like science labs. Within 3 seconds, the decorative seashell soap has been bitten. The toilet paper roll has been unravelled like a hostage note. Your best towel has toothpaste on it, even though no one brought a toothbrush. The air smells of suspicion. They exit triumphantly, hands damp and mystery-stained. You follow behind, armed with Lysol and a prayer. You close the door, pause, and whisper a quiet apology to the ghost of houseguests past. Then comes the second wave. Someone drunk on boxed wine decides to freshen up. They are in there for 14 minutes. They play with the curtain. They touch the drawer that sticks. They discover the emergency matches and light one out of curiosity. You hear them cough and laugh. The house now smells like citrus and sin. You think about knocking, but you're not ready to confront what lies behind that door. Instead, you hover outside, pretending to fluff a hallway pillow, until they finally emerge looking flushed and a little too satisfied. And just when you think the crisis is over, someone asks you where you keep your extra toilet paper. You freeze. You forgot to put any out. You were going to. You had a plan. But then the casserole caught fire, and you panicked. Now a woman in kitten heels is standing in your hallway waiting to wipe. You dash into the laundry room, retrieve the backup roll that has been dented and possibly chewed on by a squirrel at some point, and offer it like a peace treaty. She accepts it with dignity. You die inside with grace. When the bathroom is finally not in use, you peek inside. It is slightly damp, vaguely perfumed, and humming ominously. You straighten the towels, realign the soap pyramid, and silently beg the toilet to hold itself together for just one more hour. Because in 1950s hosting, the bathroom is not just a room. It is a test of plumbing, of presentation, of your ability to act like everything is fine when it clearly is not. And tonight, you barely passed. You return to the table. It's time for dessert. A moulded cherry gelatin tower with Cool Whip and crushed dreams. You place the gelatin mould in the centre of the table with the same energy as presenting a live grenade. It quivers. Someone claps, unsure whether to be impressed or concerned. The top layer is supposed to be cherries. They have migrated south. A lone grape floats near the summit like it got lost on the way to a different recipe. A child points to it and says, "Is that meat?" You do not answer. You slice the gelatin. It makes a sound, a noise that should not exist in the world of food. The slice slides across the plate and immediately collapses like it just heard bad news. You serve it anyway. Then you turn to the pie. The pie was meant to be simple. A store-bought crust, a can of fruit filling, some vague ambition. But something went wrong. The crust is now powder. The filling has a mind of its own. You try to lift a slice and the entire centre gives way like it has decided to leave the party early. Gasps ripple around the room like a church scandal. A man whispers that it's still good if you eat it with a spoon. You hate him a little. Someone suggests pouring it into bowls and calling it a deconstructed cobbler. You want to ban them from your home for life. The whipped cream melts under the pressure of judgment. You try to dollop it with flourish, but it comes out in a sad little squirt. It lands next to the gelatin like a snowman with regrets. Someone asks if you made it yourself. You lie. You say yes. You say it with the same conviction as a politician dodging a subpoena. Aunt Agnes takes a bite and goes very still. She chews for a long time, too long. Then she says, "Oh my," and you're not sure if that's praise or prophecy. Meanwhile, your neighbour Janice takes a second slice and says she once had something like this at a wedding. She does not say if that wedding was successful. A man in a checked blazer taps the top of the gelatin mould with his spoon, like he's checking for vital signs. It jiggles slightly in response. He says science is amazing. You contemplate taking a long walk into the sea. The children have retreated entirely, now eating plain crackers they found in the pantry. One of them holds up a maraschino cherry like it's a cursed jewel. Another says the pie tastes like Christmas and confusion. Your husband finally reappears from wherever he was hiding. He takes a piece of everything, declares it delicious, and disappears again. You wonder briefly if you hallucinated him. A woman asks for coffee. You forgot about coffee. You rush to the kitchen, dig out the percolator, and pray. The pot wheezes. The grounds clump. It smells like despair. You serve it anyway. Back at the table, someone has started complimenting the Jell-O again, possibly as a distraction. They ask what's in it. You say love and grenadine, and one secret no one can ever know. Eventually, the plates are cleared. People pretend to be full. A man says he shouldn't have had seconds. He did not have seconds. He had one polite bite and tucked the rest into a napkin when no one was looking. You collect the pie wreckage and the gelatin remains. You scrape Cool Whip off a placemat. You find a cherry under the salt shaker. You wonder if dessert is just a test of personal resilience. And still, someone tells you it was all wonderful. They say you outdid yourself. They say it was a lovely evening. You nod. You smile. You place the gelatin mould in the fridge where it can haunt you tomorrow. You bring out the coffee like it's the last sacrament. A steaming pot, mismatched mugs, and sugar cubes that have hardened into emotional metaphors. You whisper. Coffee anyone and everyone responds like you just proposed a group lottery win. People perk up. You do not. You are 94% sweat and Cool Whip. Someone requests decaf. Someone else asks for milk, but not from the jug because it tastes like fridge. Another guest asks if you have cinnamon. You do not. You offer nutmeg. They say never mind. You sit for a moment. Just one. And sip from your own chipped cup of weak brown salvation. For exactly 37 seconds, everyone appears peaceful. The evening, it seems, might finally be winding down. The first guest stands, but no one actually leaves for another 45 minutes. The goodbye spiral is not a moment. It is a vortex, a slow descent into farewell limbo, where time ceases to function and people forget how doors work. Someone stands up with purpose, retrieves their purse, and says, well, we should be heading out. You glance at the clock. You feel hope. You feel release. And then someone else says, oh, but did you hear about Sandra's new drapes? Just like that, everyone sits back down. The purses are returned to laps. Coffee is poured again with the desperation of a late-stage intervention. A child who was already in the coat pile is retrieved and resettled on a lap with a fresh cookie. The door remains closed. Freedom retreats into the mist. You, the host, are now trapped in your own vestibule, one heel half on, gripping a coffee pot like a hostage negotiator. You offer refills with a voice that no longer belongs to you. Someone just wants hot water. You forget what water is. You forget how to swallow. The conversation reboots itself. New topics rise from the ashes of dessert. Someone brings up local politics. Another leans in to whisper about what she saw at the PTA bake sale last week. It was custard. It was scandalous. You nod and blink slowly, your brain trying to remember what scandal tastes like. Then comes the coat round 2. A few brave souls actually make it to the guest bedroom. There they retrieve their outerwear in the same reverent hush as mourners collecting ashes. Coats are tried on, adjusted. One zipper gets stuck. There is laughter. There is bonding. A woman begins to talk about her chiropractor. You consider lying on the floor. At one point, someone puts on their gloves, a powerful signal. You move toward the door, you open it slightly. You feel the night air, cold, free. Your paws sing with joy. But no. Someone remembers they forgot to give you the recipe for that ambrosia salad. She takes off the gloves. She digs through her handbag. She pulls out a tiny stained index card. She holds it aloft like the 10 Commandments. You take it. You smile. You already have 3 copies. The child returns to the coat pile and climbs it like Everest. A hat is lost. A mitten is consumed. Someone finds a bottle cap from the cocktail hour and tries to spin it like a top. It rolls into the hallway. A chase begins. You start to laugh. Not a normal laugh. The kind of laugh that bubbles up from deep inside your stress glands and sounds vaguely like a kazoo. Someone notices. She offers you a cookie. You accept it. You eat it in one bite. You do not chew. More guests move toward the door. You hold it open like a greeter at a department store during a blackout. You hand out hugs. You hand out thank yous. You hand out compliments you can no longer remember inventing. Someone says next time, our place. You know it's a lie. You bless them anyway. You linger in the doorway for just a moment longer than necessary, waving to the darkness with the dazed reverence of a pilgrim reaching the promised land. One last car reverses cautiously down the drive, its brake lights flickering like the dying embers of forced conversation. You smile. Not the polite one. The real one. The one reserved for moments of unfiltered, exhausted joy. The final "we'll have to do this again sometime" echoes faintly behind your eyes as you gently shut the door with the same reverence one uses to seal a time capsule. The click of the latch is your national anthem. Your shoulders drop 2 full inches. Your face, once stretched into an expression of domestic serenity, finally remembers how to relax. And now, finally you can exhale. You kick off your shoes. The living room looks like a polite war zone. Ashtrays overflow, someone left with the wrong coat. Your feet are numb, your hair smells like ham, and yet you survived. You hosted. You are now untouchable in the neighborhood social hierarchy. For 1 week, at least. The door is locked. The silence is thick. Your smile finally melts off your face like a candle that's been burning since 4 p.m. You shuffle into the kitchen like a wounded soldier. On the counter, 1 lone deviled egg with a toothpick in it, 3 mostly full wine glasses and a bowl of cocktail peanuts that look like they've seen things. You look at them, they look back. Every surface is sticky. With what you no longer care. Something sweet has congealed near the base of the punch bowl. The floor crunches in places. Someone dropped a Triscuit and stepped on it with the force of a biblical plague. You begin to gather the dishes, not wash them. No. That would require willpower and a soul. Just move them. Shuffle the wreckage into smaller piles so it looks less like a crime scene and more like a still life. You rinse 1 plate and immediately abandon the mission. In the bathroom, a hand towel is wedged into the curtain rod for reasons no one will ever know. The soap pyramid is ruined. A comb is in the sink. A lipstick print on the mirror offers no explanation. Back in the living room, the coffee table is decorated with 7 used stir sticks and 1 suspicious raisin. A magazine is open to an article about 7 ways to entertain with flair. You glare at it. The room still smells like perfume, aqua velva, and whatever chemical lives inside cherry gelatin. You collapse onto the couch. The cushions sigh beneath you like they too are emotionally drained. Your girdle creaks. Your hair has deflated. You're still technically wearing lipstick, but now it's mostly memory. You stare at the ceiling and review the evening like a battle report. Hors d'oeuvres survived. Cocktail hour? Barely. Dinner? Gelatin carnage. Dessert? Spiritual crisis. Bathroom? Compromised. Social standing? Miraculously intact. Your husband pokes his head in, says something about how it all went well. He did nothing. He knows it. You know it. And yet he looks like a man who just won an award. You do not respond. He vanishes again, presumably to relive his triumph in spacement with a beer and a copy of Popular Mechanics. You pick up one ashtray. It is a mountain. You dump it into the trash with the ceremonial reverence of a burial. The trash can groans. You light a candle, not for ambiance but for emotional support. You consider soaking your feet, but the idea of finding the foot bath, filling it and plugging it in feels like climbing Everest in heels. Instead, you sit. Just sit. You feel every part of your body individually. Your knees are questioning their loyalty. Your hips are staging a protest. On the end table sits a cocktail napkin with someone's phone number scribbled on it. You have no idea who it belongs to. It might be a new friend, it might be a dentist. You place it in a drawer. You'll forget about it in 24 hours. You begin to smell something, not strong, not alarming, just mysterious. Is it ham? Is it lighter fluid? Is it someone's perfume mixed with floor polish? You inhale again. It's everywhere. It's nowhere. It lives here now. You decide to name it Shirley and let it be. You're too tired to solve atmospheric riddles tonight. Shirley. The mystery scent is part of the family now. She can help with dishes in the morning. You pour yourself one last drink, just a splash, to celebrate survival. You toast to the void, to casseroles and cracked pie crusts, to gossip and gelatin, to handshakes that linger and guests who do not leave. You made it. You hosted. And while your house may be in ruins and your soul slightly scorched, you now stand taller in the eyes of the neighborhood. You are a hostess, a survivor. And now, the dishes are cleared, the ashtrays are full, the jello has been judged, and the guests have finally gone home. But something new is glowing in the corner of the living room. It hums softly, it flickers, it gathers the entire family in silence, and without anyone fully realizing it, it begins to change everything. Let's dim the lights and see how television reshaped the American family. Your day begins with the low mechanical whine of your television warming up in the living room. You haven't even brushed your teeth yet. The television has no remote, no voice activation, and no sympathy. It takes a full 30 seconds to come alive, humming like a radioactive beehive as the glass warms up. During this time, you stare blankly at a pattern of color bars and a very serious Native American head, engraved in stoic monochrome, wondering if you've entered a sacred dream or just the early stages of caffeine withdrawal. The only thing louder than the static is the whirring sound of your own knees as you stand up to adjust the volume manually, like some kind of barbarian. You shuffle into the kitchen in your housecoat, hair still in a semi-failed curl set, and pour yourself a cup of reheated coffee that tastes like hope and burnt socks. As the TV flickers into life, the announcer's voice cuts through the morning fog like a baritone chainsaw. He's chipper. Too chipper. The kind of man who could read a nuclear test schedule with a smile and a wink. Good morning, America. You sit back down on the couch, which is mostly springs and unresolved tension, and allow the day's first round of messaging to roll across your consciousness. Educational cartoons for the children, though yours are still buried under a mountain of flannel sheets. Public service announcements for you. just in case you forgot how to raise a family or store meat properly, and advertisements for products you didn't know you needed until now, because maybe your mop is ruining your marriage. Then a morning talk show starts where two smiling hosts in matching pastels interview a woman about vacuum attachments that double as self-esteem boosters. You're only half listening, your attention divided between the sizzle of your toaster and the grim suspicion that you left the iron on yesterday. The television doesn't care. It keeps going, unrelenting, unblinking, a 17-inch prophet powered by wires, glass, and a sense of moral superiority. In the hallway, your youngest stumbles out in footy pajamas, drawn toward the living room like a moth to flame. He climbs onto the carpet, cross-legged, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. He doesn't blink for the next 20 minutes. You consider this your only real parenting break of the day. He will temporarily be taken care of by Captain Kangaroo now. You've relinquished all authority to a man with a puppet and a jingle. You hear your husband upstairs thumping around in the bedroom like a man wrestling a necktie into submission. He will emerge soon to read the paper in front of the television, pretending he is not watching. If the weatherman predicts a sunny day, your husband will frown in disagreement and check the actual window, just to assert dominance. If the weatherman predicts rain, your husband will grunt. This is his way of contributing to the household discourse. As the morning unfolds, your television becomes the unofficial schedule. You start the laundry during the first cereal ad. You vacuum during the jingle for bleach. You consider writing a letter during the furniture commercial, but the envelope glue tastes like disappointment and the mailbox is too far away. You consider turning off the television. You don't. You say you will after the next segment, and then the next. You wonder quietly what would happen if you just unplugged it. Would your children forget how to spell? Would your husband forget how to chew? Would the house collapse into dust? You don't test it. You sip your coffee. The screen flickers slightly. You adjust the antenna, the picture clears, and just like that, your day has officially begun. Not with intention, not with grace, but with the glowing judgment of a box that sees all and sells everything. As the kids shuffle off to school and your husband disappears behind his sedan, you settle into the sacred ritual, daytime television. There are only a few channels, but all of them agree. You need a new mop and possibly emotional help. Every commercial implies your marriage is fragile and can be saved by floor wax. You pour yourself another cup of coffee, reheated from yesterday's pot, and sink into the sunken middle cushion of the couch. The television buzzes softly, flickering between a morning show featuring a woman with impossibly perfect posture and a quiz game where contestants guess the price of canned peaches while pretending their lives do not depend on it. A man in a lab coat just claimed that happiness comes in the form of a powdered drink mix. You believe him. He has a clipboard. The first commercial break is a symphony of judgment. A woman in pearls smiles beside her gleaming oven. She has 3 children, a waist the circumference of a garden hose, and a vacuum that apparently also whispers affirmations. You glance around your own kitchen. The floor is sticky from jam, your apron has a coffee stain in the shape of Texas, and you've just remembered you left the laundry in the washer 3 days ago. Still, you watch. It's not just programming, it's prophecy. The television isn't merely entertaining you, it's instructing you, guiding you, suggesting gently but firmly that if your husband doesn't compliment your pot roast, it might be your dish soap, or your curtains, or your personality. The morning talk show moves on to advice segments. A woman named Lorraine in a pink blouse explains how to arrange artificial flowers to symbolize emotional stability. You try to take notes but get distracted by the host's eyebrows, which look like they were stenciled on during a windstorm. Then comes a psychiatrist, always introduced as Dr. So-and-so, always speaking with calm authority, who tells the audience that modern women often experience feelings of restlessness and anxiety, easily solved by rearranging furniture and wearing lipstick during chores. You sip your coffee and silently count the reasons you might be hysterical. Then comes the cooking demonstration. Today's recipe is chicken in a can, not chicken and something, just chicken. In a can. The host opens it with a flourish, plops it onto a platter and grins like she's just cured polio. You cannot look away. It wobbles slightly. She adds pineapple rings and calls it festive. You write down the recipe, not because you want to try it, but because you need proof that you did not hallucinate this moment. The commercials return. A jingle plays for a product called Wonder Scrub, which promises to clean your tub, your soul, and your reputation. A man smiles at his wife after she uses the right cleanser. You've been using the wrong brand. Suddenly, everything makes sense. The tension in your marriage, the stubborn soap scum, the recurring dream about being chased by sentient kitchen appliances, all of it explained. Another show begins. This one features a panel of women discussing how to spice up your marriage with themed dinners and a new brand of frozen peas. You start folding laundry on autopilot, the television murmuring sweet judgments in the background. You didn't plan to spend your morning this way, but here you are, learning about casseroles that double as conversation starters and how your discontent might be cured by lemon-scented floor polish. You glance at the clock. Hours have passed. You have not moved. Your coffee is cold again. The laundry is still half folded. And a commercial is telling you that if your sheets aren't lavender infused, you may as well sleep on the sidewalk. You again think about turning off the TV. You really do. But the next segment promises a breakthrough in window cleaner, and you need to know how it ends. After all, your windows have been streaky lately, and maybe that's why you're feeling unfulfilled. It's worth considering. Everything is when it's sponsored. It is a truth universally acknowledged in 1955 that all furniture must face the television. The couch, the chairs, the ashtray stand, the dog's bed. Everything orbits around the glowing box like it's preparing for launch. Your aesthetic is now mid-century nuclear worship. You didn't even mean for it to happen. One day the television was a novelty parked in the corner, a guest in your home, a conversation piece, and now it is the conversation. It dictates the furniture layout, the lighting, and your entire evening mood. The end tables have been relocated to make way for optimum snack placement. The rocking chair was exiled after it blocked the view during a particularly emotional moment on Dragnet. You briefly considered rearranging last month, but then someone reminded you the antenna only works at this exact angle, with one leg propped up on a Reader's Digest and the window slightly cracked. The living room used to be for entertaining. You had plans for it once, a piano maybe, shelves for books. Now it's a temple, and the screen is the high priest. Even the rug has shifted slightly, its pattern worn into the shape of where the coffee table must live, equidistant from all viewing angles. You've measured. Twice. Your husband has his spot. It is not marked, but everyone knows it. He sits in the recliner just to the left of the screen, not because it's the most comfortable, but because it is the best place to monitor the vertical hold. If the screen flickers, he can reach the dial with the precision of a trained surgeon. You tried to sit there once. It did not go well. The children sprawl across the floor, legs crossed, noses tilted upward like worshippers at a cathedral dome. Occasionally they roll over to beg for snacks or complain about static. The dog, a reluctant convert, now naps beneath the TV stand. Even the cat has stopped protesting the noise. You caught her once staring at the test pattern like she saw something you couldn't. Every holiday, someone suggests moving the television to make room for the tree or the punch bowl. The suggestion is met with silence. You don't move the television, you move your expectations. One year you had Thanksgiving dinner on folding trays just to preserve the viewing angle during the parade. Nobody complained, except your mother-in-law, but she's from a different time. A time when radios told you what to do instead. The furniture has stopped pretending it serves any other purpose. The armchair exists solely for guests who pretend they don't care what's on. The side table exists for coasters and magazines that nobody reads anymore. Even your decorative throw pillows have conformed to the curvature required to prop a neck during reruns. The lamp was moved years ago to prevent a shadow from falling across Ed Sullivan's forehead. You don't know why, but it felt important. You once tried to host a book club in here. 3 pages in, someone asked if the television could stay on in the background. Just for ambience, it stayed on. The book did not. When the television isn't playing, the room feels confused, like it's waiting for instructions. You catch yourself glancing at the dark screen, expecting something to happen. Sometimes you polish it, not for dust, for reverence. As if a clean screen might summon clearer morals. Your living room is slowly being taken over by television merchandise. There's a branded TV tray, a cereal bowl with a cartoon cowboy on it, and 3 different plastic toys based on a puppet that doesn't blink. You didn't ask for this, but you did clip the coupon, so here we are. It started innocently enough. A branded cup here, a commemorative plate there, a harmless promotional item you could only get by mailing in 12 cereal box tops and a check for 75 cents. It seemed like a good deal at the time. A little reward for loyalty, a souvenir of a show your kids loved. You told yourself it was temporary. Now you're not sure where your actual dishes are. Every flat surface in the house is occupied by something with a face. Some smiling cartoon cowboy telling your children to finish their peas. A plastic dog that repeats catchphrases from a Saturday morning show in a voice that can only be described as haunted. A doll with eyes that seem to follow you across the room. None of these things existed in your home a year ago. Now they outnumbered the family. Your children refer to these objects by name. You've heard them hold full conversations with a bendable astronaut from a cereal commercial. You caught your youngest bowing slightly to the branded tissue box before blowing his nose. When you asked where he learned that, he said it was a ritual from the Space Ranger show. You didn't press further. You don't have the strength. The branded TV tray is particularly aggressive. It has fold-out legs and a surface featuring a cartoon family that somehow manages to make your own feel inadequate. They're smiling, clean, and sitting on furniture without stains. Their dinner includes vegetables that glisten. Your dinner includes something from a can, and one child crying because the jelly touched the meatloaf, and the packaging. The boxes the toys come in are miniature billboards, shiny, crinkly, and covered in so many slogans they practically vibrate. They promise happiness, laughter, friendship, and occasionally improved posture. You'd recycle them, but your kids insist on keeping the boxes in mint condition. Your hallway closet is now a cardboard mausoleum. Even the dog isn't safe. He has a branded collar now. A prize from a mail-in campaign sponsored by a show where dogs solve mysteries and teach moral lessons. You had to submit a short essay explaining why your dog deserved it. You made something up about community spirit. Your dog remains unaware, but the collar glows in the dark, and that's apparently a feature worth writing a paragraph for. Your husband swore he wouldn't be part of this. He scoffed when the branded salt shaker arrived. He raised his eyebrows at the matching apron and oven mitt set. But last week, you found him sipping coffee from a mug shaped like a TV character's head. He claimed it was the only one clean. You said nothing. The mug winked at you. It's not just toys and dishes. It's habits, language. Your children now describe real life in terms of episodes. They refer to going to school as a cliffhanger. They say phrases like "stay tuned" and "next time on dinner." You once grounded one of them, and he responded by asking if this was part of his character arc. You considered cutting off the supply, hiding the catalogue, pretending the toy companies had all vanished overnight. But then the commercial came on. A new product, limited edition, only available this month. The jingle was catchy. The offer included a bonus item. Your hand reached for the scissors before your brain had time to object. You cut the coupon. You addressed the envelope. You included the check. You sealed it shut with the silent understanding that another character will soon arrive. One more face for the collection. Another small piece of your living room claimed by the glowing box's empire. Your kids used to play outside. Now they recite serial jingles like scripture. They've memorized the opening credits to 5 shows and think the world ends when the channel changes. You tried limiting screen time, but they've learned how to turn the knobs with their feet. You're not in control. The television has become their third parent, possibly their favorite. It never raises its voice. It never tells them to clean their rooms. It delivers cartoons on time, every time, and always with a side of product placement. Your youngest once looked you straight in the eye and asked why you never smiled like the mommy in the detergent commercial. You told him that woman had a script, a stylist, and probably a Valium. He was not impressed. Mornings are the worst. Before breakfast, they're already glued to the screen like barnacles. Pajamas twisted, hair in whirls, eyes wide and glazed. They eat cereal directly from the box because commercials told them bowls are for quitters. You've tried engaging them in real conversation. The most you got was a reenactment of a puppet show, followed by a request for a new toy they saw during a toothpaste ad. When the school bus honks, they barely flinch. You have to drag them away from the screen like you're rescuing them from a trance. One child screamed because he didn't get to see the end of a baking segment hosted by a dog. A real dog, wearing an apron. You're not even sure what show it was. Possibly a dream, possibly sponsored by gelatin. After school, it's worse. The second they walk in, shoes flying, lunchboxes abandoned mid-hallway, they race to the television and flip it on like it's a life support machine. Homework is postponed until after the good programs, then postponed again because of a special animated feature, then forgotten entirely when a commercial promises a giveaway if they mail in 12 cereal box tops and a blood sample. You've tried rules. Half an hour of TV, then books, then chores, but somehow half an hour becomes an hour, and the chores never happen. They've learned how to argue using plot lines. If a cartoon character can skip school and become a hero, why can't they? You counter with logic. They counter with a theme song and a cardboard periscope from a promotional mail-in campaign. They speak in jingles now. Entire meals pass in musical fragments. Would you like seconds? Only if they're frosted and fortified. Can you take out the trash? Not unless it sparkles like Mum's favourite floor wax. You start to suspect that if they fall and skin a knee, they'll expect a cartoon bandage endorsed by a talking bear. You visit other parents for solidarity. You hope they'll say the same things. Instead, their kids have their own screens. Bigger screens, flashier ones. One child brags that his TV has a dial for colour, even though the programming is still in black and white. Another brings out a toy that hasn't even aired yet, as if sponsored by prophecy. On weekends, your children wake up before dawn just to catch Saturday morning cartoons. You've never seen them rise that fast for anything else. Not school, not Santa, not even pancakes shaped like animals. They build pillow forts in front of the screen and refuse to blink. You once waved a popsicle in front of them and got no response. You're not sure whether to be impressed or deeply concerned. At night, when they finally peel themselves away, they hum commercial jingles in their sleep. You've heard one whisper about bubblegum-flavoured vitamins. Another murmurs the ingredients of a new brand of marshmallow spread. You're losing them to the broadcast, one slogan at a time, and somewhere deep down you know this is only the beginning, because the next time they want something, it won't be because you told them they needed it. It'll be because the box did, and the box never blinks. At 6 p.m. the whole family assembles like a solemn church gathering. You're here for the evening news, delivered by a calm man with perfect hair and no discernible emotions. The television flickers gently in the corner, casting a blue glow over your casserole. No one speaks. The children chew silently, spellbound. Your husband nods occasionally, as if he understands the economic report. You stir canned peas without looking down. The anchorman's voice is the new household metronome. Smooth, unflinching, possibly carved from marble. He could tell you the moon exploded and you'd still pass the salt. This is family bonding now, not a game night, not a conversation. Just shared exposure to world events while eating Jell-O with marshmallows in it. The news is always serious but polite. Serious in a way that makes you feel informed but not alarmed. Like someone's letting you in on a secret without admitting it's bad. You remember a time when dinner time involved stories, laughter, maybe a complaint about broccoli. Now your youngest asks about missile ranges between bites of mashed potato. Your middle child thinks the phrase diplomatic breakdown sounds like a type of dance. You say nothing, because correcting them would mean talking during the segment, and that's not allowed. The anchorman never changes, not his suit, not his haircut, possibly not even his socks. He is steady, reliable. The opposite of your casserole, which has collapsed in the middle again. You sometimes wonder if he sleeps in the studio, if they wheel him out of a glass case every evening, ready to pronounce the state of the world over your imitation gravy. Weather comes last, always last, like dessert. A small reward for surviving the fires, protests and grain shortages. The weather guy is younger, slightly more animated, and talks with his hands. He gestures at clouds that aren't visible, promising either sunshine or ruin. Your husband grunts, squints at the actual window, and makes his own prediction, which is wrong but confidently delivered. The commercial break is brief but jarring. Loud jingles interrupt the national oil crisis. A cheerful housewife endorses margarine, while a man with dazzling teeth praises a miracle floor cleaner. You go from potential nuclear conflict to lemon-scented shine in 5 seconds. No one blinks. It's just the rhythm of the evening. After the break, it's human interest. A goose in Minnesota that learned to ice skate. A child who found a potato shaped like Abraham Lincoln. A woman who turns recycled newspapers into hats. These stories are meant to soften the blow of the rest. A brief reminder that life contains whimsy. You nod along. The potato does look presidential. Dinner ends around the same time the news does. You scrape plates into the sink as the final story fades and the closing music plays. Your husband calls the anchorman a good man, as if he knows him, as if they served together in some war against badly ironed shirts. The children scatter, homework will be attempted, baths negotiated, dishes rinsed in silence. You stare at the empty chairs and still-lit screen. The anchorman's face is gone now, replaced by a graphic for tomorrow's headlines. You don't read it. You already know it'll be floods, fires, and something about taxes, and you'll watch again. Because you always do. The television has become the family hearth. No firewood required. Just a calm, polished man telling you the world is complicated but manageable. You believe him. Because it's easier to believe him than to admit you're not sure what any of it means. And because dinner tastes less like disappointment when served with certainty. After the news, the commercials arrive, relentless and upbeat. The transition is seamless. One moment you're being told about potential water rationing. The next you're being offered a revolutionary toilet brush that sings. The tone doesn't change. The voice stays calm, as if these things, war, unrest, and citrus-scented disinfectant belong in the same paragraph. You sit in your living room, watching it all unfold with the same dazed expression you reserve for PTA meetings and extended family dinners. The commercials are designed to soothe, to distract, to assure you that while the world outside may be unpredictable, inside your home, with the right brand of floor wax, everything is under control. There's a sense that even if the sky falls, you'll be fine as long as your silverware sparkles and your roast is fluffy. One particularly chipper ad explains that a woman's true defense against global anxiety is a lemon-scented pantry and a new set of embroidered napkins. They don't say it outright, but the message is clear. You are the last line of defense. You and your new triple-action detergent must hold the front line against entropy. If your whites are dingy, the communists win. If your souffle collapses, the very fabric of society follows. That's a lot of pressure for someone wearing slippers with a hole in one toe. Your husband doesn't question it. He watches the commercials with the same seriousness he applies to the news. He once called a razor ad inspirational. You reminded him that the actor using it had no visible pores and probably never shaved anything rougher than a marshmallow. He nodded solemnly and adjusted the antenna. The kids are worse. They believe everything. Your youngest cried when you served cereal that wasn't the one with the animated dinosaur on the box. He said it tasted like betrayal. Your daughter asked if she'd be unpopular at school because her toothpaste didn't sparkle. You considered explaining marketing psychology, but instead just promised to clip the right coupon next time. Some of the commercials pretend to be educational. One claims that using a certain kind of canned ham can improve family unity. Another shows a smiling boy doing math better after eating a specific brand of spaghetti. You suspect the math was staged. You also suspect that no child ever got smarter from spaghetti. More slippery, maybe, but not smarter. You start to notice the patterns. The women are always smiling. The men are always competent. The children are always clean. The homes are always spotless, bathed in golden light. Nobody argues. Nobody burns the toast. Nobody forgets to defrost the meat. It's a reality where tension is cured with a dab of furniture polish and a positive attitude. You used to believe commercials were background noise, but now they fill the silence between the big things. They stitch together the chaos. They offer solutions to problems you didn't know you had, and distractions from the ones you cannot fix. Somewhere deep inside, you know that no amount of cherry-scented glass cleaner can stop a missile. But the box promises clarity, shine, renewal. And for a moment, while the jingle plays and the screen sparkles, you let yourself believe. Just a little. After dinner comes the real ceremony, prime time, westerns, sitcoms, variety shows. You don't even like them, but it's what everyone else is watching, and that somehow matters. The living room transforms, dishes are cleared, lamps dimmed, cushions fluffed with military precision. Your husband claims his corner of the couch like a homesteader staking land. The kids slide into their designated grooves in the shag rug. You, like clockwork, fold laundry in the glow of televised gunfights and musical interludes. Somewhere, someone is solving a mystery. Somewhere else, a cowboy is shooting at justice. But none of it is real, and yet all of it feels strangely important. You start with the westerns. They are always the same. A dusty town, a misunderstood sheriff, a saloon with suspiciously well-groomed women. Every week, someone new rides in with a grudge, a past, or a comically oversized hat. Justice is served in exactly 23 minutes, not including commercial breaks. Your children cheer for the good guy, even if they're not sure what he's done yet. He has a theme song, that's good enough. Then the sitcom begins. A canned laugh track guides your emotions like a tour bus through human experience. A man comes home from work and is immediately hit in the face with a pie. The audience howls. A wife delivers a zinger while stirring soup, more howling. Your husband chuckles in time with the recorded laughter, unaware he's reacting to a sound effect. You fold another towel and wonder how much of your personality has been shaped by other people's timing. Variety hour hits around 8. Sequins, banter, a host with teeth so white they could double as searchlights. Dancers emerge from behind velvet curtains, high-kicking their way into your retinas. A comedian makes jokes about traffic and mothers-in-law. Your own mother calls during a sketch and you let the phone ring. She wouldn't understand. It's the ventriloquist puppet's big number. Even your youngest child, half asleep with a graham cracker stuck to her cheek, seems captivated. Her eyes are glazed but wide. She's absorbing culture, one absurd jingle at a time. At school they will talk about the show, what the puppet said, whether the pie was real. This is now a social currency. Fail to watch, and you may as well forget recess. Your husband asks for silence during a skit featuring his favourite crooner. The man appears in a tuxedo, smiles into the camera, and sings about a lost love with the emotional range of a tax form. You dab at your eyes, mostly out of habit. The tune is melancholy. You are conditioned to respond. You do not question this. You merely adjust the volume and sigh, as if remembering a life you've never had. There is a comfort in the rhythm. Every show ends when it should. No surprises. Even the plot twists are familiar. A misunderstanding, a chase scene, a reconciliation in time for the credits. The world is a loop, reassuring and unreal. You feel both soothed and slightly unwell, like eating too much custard. And then comes the sign-off tease. The host reappears grinning and tells you to tune in next week. Something big is going to happen. A special guest. A shocking event. Nothing will ever be the same. You nod, knowing full well everything will be exactly the same, and that's why you'll be back. The room smells like popcorn and furniture polish. The kids are drooping. Your spouse has already dozed off. You remain upright, loyal to the lineup. There's only 5 minutes left. You might as well finish it. One more skit. One more joke about how confusing women are. And then it ends. The credits roll. A final jingle plays. The room falls silent except for the buzz of the television and the occasional snore. You turn the set off. For a moment the living room is dark and still. Then someone mumbles about bedtime and the spell breaks. Tomorrow's TV will be exactly like today's. Same schedule, same actors, same ads. But somehow it still feels necessary. You've started measuring time not by hours but by episodes. Your day now runs on syndicated rhythm. The clock has been replaced by theme songs. You no longer say 10:30. You say right after the game show with the overly enthusiastic host and the woman in sequins who gestures at blenders like they are made of gold. Noon is when the rerun of that show about the sassy redhead comes on. 2:00 is the soap opera slot, where everybody is rich, sad, and dramatically slapping each other in front of fireplaces. You no longer need a planner. You know that when the detective show starts, it's time to prep dinner. When the cowboy rides into town, it's late afternoon. When the sitcom starts using a laugh track louder than your thoughts, it's probably bedtime. You can chart the passing of the seasons by which reruns are in circulation. Fall means more court dramas. Spring brings in beach-themed episodes, even if it's snowing outside. The television doesn't care about your weather. It has its own internal climate. It isn't just you. The entire neighborhood seems caught in the same pattern. You can walk outside and hear identical theme music drifting from half the windows on your block. It's like a strange suburban symphony. Someone to the left is watching a courtroom show. Someone across the street is already on the second episode of their afternoon comedy block. You feel oddly comforted by this. Like if you're all synchronized, the day will proceed in order. Even conversations have changed. Your friends at the PTA don't ask how your weekend was. They ask if you saw the twist in yesterday's hospital drama. You nod. Of course you did. You were shelling peas at the time. The emotional breakdown of the head nurse now reminds you of the smell of vegetables and the faint ache in your wrist from stirring the pot too long. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if the schedule changed, if suddenly the sitcom swapped places with the game show. Would you forget to make dinner? Would your children arrive home from school and find you muttering, lost in time, still waiting for the closing credits to roll so you can pick up the dry cleaning? The shows are predictable. That is their power. You know when the laugh is coming. You can sense the commercial break a full 10 seconds before it hits. You recognize guest stars like distant cousins. They show up in one show wearing a mustache, then reappear in another as a completely different character with a different mustache. You accept this. You embrace it. The commercials are part of the rhythm too. They're not even trying to surprise you anymore. They are gentle reminders that you're living in a cycle. Coffee is still good. Soap still makes you pure. A certain kind of margarine still makes your family love you. You don't even need to watch. Just the tone of the music tells you what they're selling. You take a sip of your actual coffee and sigh. It does not transform you. But it's warm. Today you've survived another loop, another carefully curated sequence of smiles, slaps, pratfalls, and overly cheerful announcers. You have done the chores, you have folded the towels, you have timed your life to the rhythm of syndicated time, and tomorrow you'll do it all again. The same shows, the same pauses, the same moment where you wonder if that's really what people wore in court in the 1940s. The same punchline delivered just slightly out of sync with the laugh track. It doesn't matter. The comfort is in the repetition, in knowing what comes next. Because in a world spinning with uncertainty, it helps to know that Lucy will always get in trouble, the cowboy will always ride in, and the detective will always find the clue. just before the final commercial. Your neighbours just got a bigger television. The Thompsons across the street now have colour. You pretend you're happy with your black and white zenith, but every time a western pans across a prairie, you wonder if you're missing out on green. You tell yourself size does not matter. Picture quality is subjective. Grainy is vintage, black and white is classic. But deep down in the part of your soul that secretly cares about how the living room appears during bridge night, you know the truth. You are slipping. One poorly tuned channel away from being the house where time stood still. It started with whispers, subtle neighbourhood hints, someone mentioning the vivid blue of a singer's dress on Thursday night, another neighbour casually describing the pink icing on a game show cake. You nod as if you saw it too. But you didn't. You saw a smudgy shade of grey. Possibly 2 greys. 3 if you squint. You say things like, "I just prefer the contrast and hope no one asks follow-up questions." Your husband insists colour is a fad, just like hula hoops and that one canned meat everyone pretended to like. He says the zenith has good bones, that its knobs are solid, that if you hit it in just the right place, it still displays the football score without ghosting. This is not comforting. You're tired of smacking the side of your television like it owes you rent. The Joneses are different. Their new set hums like a spaceship and practically glows through their curtains. You try not to look directly at it during evening walks. It's too bright, too smug. You caught a glimpse of a dancing variety show in full colour once and had to sit down. The sequins moved. They shimmered. It felt like witnessing forbidden magic. Your kids notice too. They come home talking about what the neighbour's television looks like. They describe the shade of cartoon grass, the colour of a cowboy's bandana. Your youngest asks if black and white means your family is poor. You calmly say no. Then retreat to the bathroom and stare at your reflection while wondering if poverty smells like burnt dust and dial cleaner. Suddenly everything feels smaller. The picture, the volume, the respect. The zenith makes a high-pitched whine when it warms up and sometimes buzzes like a trapped bee when you switch channels too quickly. You have named the antenna Harold out of resentment. Harold never stands straight. Harold is the weakest link in your cultural credibility. But colour costs money. New sets are pricey, and you have already budgeted for other things, like groceries and socks, and the vacuum that's been making an ominous wheezing sound since Easter. Still, the thought lingers. Would your Jell-O moulds taste better in Technicolor? Would your family behave more lovingly if seen in full tint? Even your evening news anchor is starting to feel judgmental. His perfectly combed black and white hair seems to look at you with monochrome disdain. He is being broadcast in colour elsewhere. Right now, in other homes, better homes, with richer tones and crisper outlines. You suspect he knows this. Your neighbour mentions a payment plan. A new store opened on Main Street that lets you test drive television sets. You pretend to scoff. But later, after the kids go to bed and the zenith blinks into silence, you pull out the catalogue from the junk drawer and run your fingers over the glossy image of a colour set like it's a forbidden romance. You tell yourself it's not about status, it's about clarity, vibrancy, cultural participation. If the Cartwrights are riding into the sunset and the sunset is orange, you want to see the orange. Is that so wrong? Is it truly envy if it's educational? So tomorrow, maybe you visit the store, just to browse, just to gather information, just to lean in close and whisper to the screen, "Show me what I've been missing." They said the television would bring families closer, and in some ways it did. You're all in the same room, watching the same screen, not talking, not blinking, united by a glowing box and the shared hope that tonight's show will be better than last night's. It won't be, but you'll keep watching anyway. You used to have conversations, once, before the set arrived like a second sun and rearranged your entire orbit. Dinner used to be filled with clinking plates and actual eye contact. Now it's more of a silent migration from stove to lap tray to flickering screen. No one speaks unless it's to shush someone else during a punchline. If your child spontaneously combusted during the first 5 minutes of a sitcom, no one would notice until the commercial break. But togetherness looks good from the outside. There you all are, neatly arranged, faces aglow with synchronized distraction. A Norman Rockwell painting if Rockwell had used radiation and mild eye strain. Your husband looks peaceful. He's been staring at the same corner of the screen for 20 minutes. You're not sure he's blinked. One child has fallen asleep with a spoon still in hand. The other is whispering the plot under their breath like it's a prayer. The dog is technically part of the group too. He lies at your feet, twitching occasionally in what you hope are dreams, and not a response to the laugh track. Even the goldfish in the bowl is facing the screen. Your family has been domestically hypnotized. You are bonded in silence and artificial light. You start to notice how little actual entertainment occurs. The jokes are recycled. The drama is always resolved just before the credits, but you watch anyway. Because something might happen. A twist, a surprise, a live performance where someone forgets a line and has to cover it with jazz hands. Hope keeps you rooted. Also, the couch is warm. Occasionally someone tries to talk during a show. This is a crime. Your daughter once asked a question about fractions during the first 5 minutes of a musical number. The glare you gave her could have melted Pyrex. She's never made that mistake again. The television must not be interrupted. It is both priest and performance. It gives and it judges. Your spouse offers occasional commentary. Nothing insightful, just a grunt of approval or disapproval when a character makes a poor choice. You nod solemnly in agreement. This is your new language. Grunt-based marital bonding. Sometimes he rewinds the volume dial back and forth like it's a new kind of therapy. Sometimes you wish it were. The shows tell you what family should be like. Happy, respectful, quirky in digestible doses. No one screams into a void or eats the last slice of pie in secret while hiding behind the fridge door. Fathers are stern but loving. Mothers are wise and immaculately dressed even during plumbing emergencies. Children are mischievous but endearing. Your own family fails to meet all these marks, and you wonder if the problem is your reality or your reception. Still you keep watching, because to stop would mean facing the silence, and silence invites thought, and thought leads to questions. Like, when did everyone start eating dinner on TV trays? Why does your husband know the schedule better than his own anniversary? How long has that water stain been on the ceiling, and is it getting bigger? But those questions can wait. Because the show is back on, and there's a pie fight, and everyone is laughing, including you. And maybe, just for a moment, the illusion is enough. You lean back. You join the silence, together, as a family, watching strangers pretend to be a family, all of you perfectly still, perfectly united, perfectly deluded, just the way the sponsors like it. By 9 p.m. your eyelids are drooping, but the TV is still blaring promises. Night creams, kitchen gadgets, a revolutionary new fabric that allegedly resists both stains and disappointment. The television has followed you to bed, not literally but spiritually. Its glow lingers in your retinas even after the screen goes black. Its catchphrases drift through your subconscious like drowsy seagulls. You're not alone in this. Across the suburbs, people are nodding off to the same lineup of commercials, each one more enthusiastic than the last about solving your deeply personal problems with a product that can be ordered in 3 easy payments. Your bedroom used to be a place of rest. Now it's an auxiliary showroom for miracle solutions. A man with suspiciously white teeth explains how his frying pan changed his life. He flips an omelette in slow motion. You're transfixed. You do not need a frying pan. You don't even like eggs. But for a moment, in that hazy late-night trance, you believe that with the right non-stick surface, everything else will fall into place. Another commercial promises youth in a jar. The model applies cream in a bathroom lit like a cathedral. She is ageless, glowing, and possibly fictional. You glance at your own reflection in the darkened dresser mirror and wonder if maybe you too could become timeless, with the help of emulsified peptides. You don't know what peptides are, but the voiceover says they're clinically proven. That's all you need. The commercials grow stranger as the hour stretches on. Now there is a mechanical device that makes your bed for you. A plastic arm that stirs your soup while you read. A mop that doubles as a dance partner. These things exist, apparently. Or at least they exist in the strange parallel universe of late-night advertising. You're no longer sure if this is real life or a fever dream curated by capitalism. You brush your teeth while staring at the tiny black and white set perched precariously on your dresser. It hums quietly as a man in a suit gestures at a vacuum that could allegedly suck the soul out of a carpet. You wonder if your own vacuum is underperforming. You briefly imagine what your soul looks like in a dust bag. You spit and rinse. At some point, the television switches to static. A soft, comforting hiss, like the sound of a cat breathing. You should turn it off, but you don't. The hiss is familiar. It cradles you. It's easier than silence. Your spouse is already in bed. He missed the part about the salad spinner that also dries socks. You consider waking him to share this innovation. You do not. Some discoveries must be faced alone. He is in a deep sleep, but still mumbles something about stock prices or indigestion. You can hear the familiar rhythm of his snoring. It's oddly comforting, like a natural soundtrack to replace the man with the cue cards. You finally climb into bed. You sit in the quiet for a moment longer, not quite ready to move. The world outside the screen feels slower, less polished. No announcer will recap your day. No music will swell when you open the fridge. There is no applause waiting in the hallway, just crumbs and unpaid bills and a single sock you're pretty sure is from 1948. Now that the TV is finally off, the silence is almost aggressive. You try to hum a little to fill the space, but it turns into the jingle from a fabric softener ad. It has become part of your muscle memory. A haunting lullaby promising freshness and love in every fold. You sigh and turn off the light. You pull the covers over your head like a bunker. Your thoughts wander through the day's programming. You remember a quiz show where the answer was mayonnaise. A cowboy who looked suspiciously like the dad from the cereal commercial. A woman in pearls selling floor wax with the intensity of someone delivering wartime news. These images blur together into something soft and faintly ridiculous. Your pillow smells like shampoo and something vaguely metallic. You wonder if it's the springs. You consider getting a new pillow. You remember a commercial for one, with memory foam, a mattress for your face. It had stars on the box. Maybe that means it works. You try to drift off, but it's hard to sleep when your brain is still hosting a late-night variety show. You manage to fall asleep, but you even dream about the TV. In your dream, you're in a living room that stretches for miles. There are couches on top of couches. Every surface holds an ashtray and a coaster with a cartoon character on it. Your children are somewhere in the static, chanting serial slogans in harmony. You try to call them, but the only sound that comes out of your mouth is the name of a floor wax. A glowing woman appears. She's smiling, always smiling. She vacuums the carpet in slow motion, while her husband kisses her forehead and says something about freshness. You want to ask her if she's okay, but before you can, a quiz show buzzer goes off and you are pulled into another channel. Now you are inside the sitcom. You live here now. Your neighbours are laugh tracks. Your mother-in-law only speaks in zingers. You drop your toast and the audience gasps. You sit down and they applaud. You cannot stop smiling. You are exhausted. Suddenly, a breaking news bulletin interrupts the dream. There's been a local emergency, a shortage of gelatin. The anchor is sweating, but his voice remains calm. Behind him, a mushroom cloud looms gently over a suburban skyline. He reminds you to buy war bonds and vacuum often. You nod. This seems logical. You're now watching yourself. In your own living room, watching television, watching yourself, watching television. The loop continues. You reach for the remote but find only a TV guide and a lukewarm casserole. You wake up briefly. It was just a dream. The real world is silent. The screen is off, but your brain is still tuned in. You wonder if the television dreams of you too. If somewhere inside its tiny vacuum tubes, it replays a highlight reel of your household, the synchronized snack breaks, the muted arguments about antenna direction, the way you pause reverently for the national anthem. You roll over. Your spouse is snoring like a test pattern. The refrigerator hums its late-night monologue. The room is finally still. But in the corners of your mind, the programming continues. A whisper of static, a flicker of jingles, the faint promise of a revolutionary mop. You think back to your day, how the television shaped every hour, how it raised your kids, structured your chores, delivered your world events, suggested what to buy, when to laugh, how to feel, how it gathered your family together without requiring anyone to speak. Just sit, just watch, just absorb. It sold you ideas, identities, aspirations with rabbit ears, and you let it. Not out of laziness, not really, but because it was easier. Easier to believe in something with a theme song. Easier to feel part of something when millions of others were watching the exact same fictional sheriff solve the exact same fictional crime. Easier to be quiet when the commercials were talking, and tomorrow it all starts over again. The test pattern will hum, the cereal box will sing, the couch will face the altar, and somehow that's fine, because television is part of your life. But now the porch lights are off. The television glow has faded. The neighbourhood is quiet, or at least pretending to be. The 1950s promised comfort, order, stability. But beneath the pressed dresses and trimmed hedges, there was pressure, performance, expectation. And yet, there was warmth too. Shared dinners, community rituals, even that humming television set that brought everyone together. History is rarely simple. It's layered, human, complicated. And tonight you've walked through one small corner of it. Rest now, the neighbours aren't watching. Probably. Good night, dreamer.